All right, well, good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at. My name is Rukari. Sam is here with me, and it is GCX main event day 2. Before we get into the stuff, Sam, how we doing? How are we doing this morning, since I know you're West Coast?
I'm actually feeling quite tired. I was in the D&D campaign yesterday, and it was insane. If y'all were in the tavern, or if you were watching over on Captain Robert's channel, it was a wild ride, to say the least. The ending, oh gosh, we have to figure out what we're gonna do today. It's,
so you guys are continuing the story, continuing the campaign, huh?
Every night, so of GCX, which is awesome. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. This is, it's another day that ends in Y, so really nothing has changed here in the office, ready to have some fun. There's 4 hours of panels. There's a ton of good stuff. This is like the second verse, same as the first, right? We're going to take what we did yesterday and just expand upon it. We've got groups like Guardian Mental Health, as they're going to break down mental health and parasocial relationships, a Destiny lore panel, G4, and Bordercast. It's going to be a good day. I'm excited for it.
It is. Honestly, I'm excited for all of the lore stuff that's going to go on today. I mean, yesterday we had Star Wars, and that dig deep into a lot of the lore for there. And then I'm actually really stoked about the Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah,
that's going to be happening today, because I, unfortunately, not as big a fan of Star Wars, but a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. So
Would you say it was fantasy, not sci-fi, right?
Yeah, I'm a big fantasy fan and not as much sci-fi. So now I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable in my area.
You're in your element. You're in your element now. Okay, I get that. I get that.
It's gonna be so good though. However, since we do have a lot of really cool stuff today, well, first off, we're starting on time, which is friggin' awesome. Love that for us.
Production's back there doing this one, just looking at you all salty, like really? We're gonna say that out loud? Yeah.
No, they're working hard. I'm so proud of them all. But yeah, so today we're actually gonna kick off with our Guardians mental health team, and y'all, I swear, if you
I know what part
for some of these names, I'm trying here, okay? But they're going to be joined by Dr. Stephanie Orm, Dr. Emery S. Daniel Jr., Dr. Tony Bean, Dr. Arian Vershad, and Matthew Leardy for a panel on parasocial relationships and overall mental health, which is going to be super important to tune into, because mental health, especially with this past year, is something that has been elevated. And if you are somebody who has also struggled and want to sit down and take a good listen to that, I highly recommend. I'm stoked to see what they say. So
it will be a good one. And you're right. The last year was rough. It taught me a lot about myself that I kind of already knew, but I got to exemplify. It reminded me a lot of childhood, of being told to sit down and, hate to say it like this, but sit down and shut up and make your own fun. And I would be sitting there like, what am I going to do? Yeah. Oh, very much so. I could tell the people that didn't have the parents that were like, get out of here, kid. I was definitely that one though. So yes, mental health will be a big one, just because I think of all my friends and whatnot, and the support was huge. And in no way are we each mental health experts, but we had to be there for each other. And, I hate to say it like this, like the commercials, in those uncertain times. But it's going to be fun to hear a different perspective, one that is not just me and my knucklehead friends, one that's a professional opinion. I'm going to be over here taking notes.
Agree. Sometimes those knucklehead friends, though, some of them got some good advice. May not be the best advice, but
I don't know which friends you're talking about. You haven't met my friends then.
I'm your friend, right, Rukari?
Okay, yeah, but I mean my knucklehead friends. They're very much like they shoulder shrug a lot of stuff. They let it roll off. Oh no, absolutely not. Oh no, absolutely not. I would listen to your advice. My friends.
Okay, so my advice is to sit down and shut up. As your mama once said.
Look, oh my gosh. It was my pops. It was definitely my pops.
Oh, as your pop once said.
Yeah, my pops was definitely that one, that old Georgia boy.
It's the Southern.
It's definitely the Southern. I'd be like, hey man, we don't have this. And he's like, why are you worried about that? When I was your age, I was out there in the watering hole, and I would shake the stick in the watering hole so it would muddy the water so the snakes would come out. I'm like, bro, we don't live like that anymore. We are not on the farm.
A mile uphill.
No, he was in Georgia. He had no snow. I believe the stories, but they were not relevant to my life. They were not relevant to my life. So
You're not having
that's
enough
all.
watering holes right now. Well,
Chat,
I'm
I
excited.
apologize for me taking you down memory lane here.
We're always here for memory lane, and we can get back to that after we switch on over to our Guardians mental health team. So take it away.
Live. Hello, everybody. Hey. Hello, and welcome to this amazing group of people that you will come to know within this hour as we discuss parasocial relationships. And as we move forward, we're going to introduce everybody just really, really quick. Why don't we start with? And I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, which corner do I want to start with? But Dr. Emery, why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, I am Dr. Emery Daniel. I am an assistant professor at Appalachian State University in the mountains of Boone, North Carolina. I'm in the communication department, and my big specialty is working with parasocial relationships. So this is right up my alley. And anytime somebody says, let's do something on parasocial relationships, I usually jump right in and do it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Dr. Farshad, please.
You're gonna wish you had that pronunciation guide.
I know. As it came out, can we chalk it up to anxiety?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Dr. Ariane Fascio.
Samsonite, I was way off.
It's okay. It's okay. It's one of those Louisiana French names. I am an assistant professor in the School of Communication at Florida State University, where I study all things new media entertainment, including video games, parasocial relationships, just kind of anything sort of new and technology-y that seems interesting and fun. That's what I'm into. So super stoked to be here, especially with these guys. Everybody here is cool people, so should be fun.
And just because I don't want to butcher any more names, Dr. Stephanie.
I like it. I've actually gotten Dr. Steph from students before. I don't know where it comes from. Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Steph Orm. I'm an assistant professor of communication and media studies at Emmanuel College in Boston. I do a lot of research on geek culture, specifically the video game industry and gaming culture. And lately I'm doing a lot of research on streaming and Let's Play videos.
Awesome. Thank you. And last but not least, Dr. Bean.
I am Dr. Anthony Bean, and I am a professor, assistant professor, and I don't know how, it depends on everyone. I'm not like employed heavily by the college at Framingham State University in Massachusetts. I also am the creator of Geek Therapeutics, and I run a nonprofit down here in Texas called the Telos Project. And we do a lot of research with video games, mental health, and how can we utilize all of these different geek cultural artifacts for mental health and well-being.
Awesome. And my name is Matthew. I am a licensed clinical social worker, not a doctor, so I'm one of the things that don't belong on this panel. But what I'd like to sort of jump into is exactly if whoever, and we're going to keep this sort of like a round table style so that nobody's really set into, talking about one thing. But whoever would like to give the viewers and give the people at home on the spaceship, what exactly are parasocial relationships?
Yeah, I'll jump in here.
Sure.
It's actually really interesting because I was on Reddit earlier today and someone in the wild mentioned parasocial relationships, and I was like, but essentially parasocial relationships got their start in terms of an object of study in the 50s. These guys named Horton and Wall were sociologists, and they were noticing this phenomenon, particularly with talk show hosts and newscasters, things like that, where people tended to react as though the interactions they were having with these newscasters or whatever felt like real interactions, right? So if they reacted as though it was happening in real life. Now, obviously, these newscasters weren't speaking directly to, Steph or Emery or whoever. They're talking generally to a broad audience, but our brains don't evolve that fast, right? So in many ways, it still feels like that same sort of interaction. So over time, these repeated interactions really develop into a full-blown relationship. So it's really a situation where you come to find that a media persona seems to be a friend or an enemy. You can have parasocial hate, just like in real life, you have a nemesis. Emery is my nemesis. Arch nemesis. Yes. So
I can't wait for this arc.
Yeah, we've got kind of
it's a solid choice, guys.
We've got kind of a Midoriya and Bakugo kind of relationship.
I was gonna go Mugen Train.
Yeah. I think I'm the Bakugo here, but
that's fair.
Yeah, you can have that sort of relationship with media characters as well. My favorite example of that is Joffrey from Game of Thrones. No one likes him. Right? Nobody. Yeah. I've yet to ever meet somebody that was like Joffrey. Yeah.
But he's
great, my guy.
He's a great character. Like not like he's a great person, right? But he's such a great character because you can like really hate him, right?
Yeah.
Like, develop a strong feeling towards him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's still in many ways a parasocial relationship, just kind of a parasocial hatred, right? Yeah. And traditionally, as I mentioned, this sort of concept or construct really was all about newscasters and really real people. But people realize, hey, in fictional characters, our brains still work exactly the same way. Mm-hmm. And we love these characters. We hate these characters. We get upset when these characters are no longer with us, which to me is the most fascinating thing. It's something called a parasocial breakup. When you don't have access to this character anymore, you feel sad, like you've lost a friend. And if you don't believe me, go on YouTube and look up Red Wedding reaction videos and tell me that people weren't upset when that happened. And so, funnily enough, with media research, media effects, communications research, everything old becomes new again, because originally we're talking about newscasters or talk show hosts or real people. Then we kind of move into the fictional character realm, and now we're moving back to real people with things like Let's Plays, streaming. Even social media. So I'd like to, I'll let some other folks jump in on this too. But I mean, it's super fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd like to kind of piggyback off of that. It's interesting because not only you're dealing with something called identification, where you feel like if it's a fictional character or if it's a newscaster or if it's a streamer, you really have this mentality of, I feel like this person, I agree with this person, I want this person to succeed. So like if they triumph, we triumph. And that's a major component of these emotions that feel so real with parasocial relationships. And that's one of the facets I found so interesting when we did a study again on Game of Thrones back in 2017 was this ideology of when a character dies, do we feel that same heartache like you would in real life? Like, so we did on the Kubler-Ross model for a Game of Thrones character. I won't spoil who it is, but it is one of those things that it was actual anguish for that person. And they were like, I'm taking a day off work because there's a death in my family, it feels like, because they felt that distraught. But with that though, and I like what you were mentioning, Ariane, this idea of how we've transitioned over the years. Because when we looked at parasocial relationships, the area that we were always most concerned about was the person that was on screen couldn't interact back with the audience. See, that was like the main facet that differentiated a social relationship from a parasocial one, is that the person that was on screen couldn't say anything to that person. Whereas now we have things like social media, whereas now we have Twitch chats, to where if a streamer or an influencer were to see a comment from somebody, they could interact back. Well, now that throws everything for a loop, because now we've kind of transitioned from what we've known as parasocial for a very long time, to the point where it's kind of made a resurgence, not only from the research side, which is cool that it has, but also within the kind of the public sphere, where streamers will come in and say, I'm having a parasocial relationship, or a viewer's having a parasocial relationship with me, and I do not feel the same way. And so, I mean, just kind of as a timeline of it, I think this has just become a very fascinating subject. It's one that has become incredibly important, not just for big name celebrities anymore. It can be a nano influence. It can be a streamer with 5 viewers consistently. These feelings, not only from the viewer, but now from the streamer, are very real and are considered very important to them. So I'll stop there, but I just, again, I think this has become a very relevant topic and an important one for such a growing field, like influencing and streaming.
Yeah, and I like that, because it also says you don't need to necessarily have thousands upon thousands of viewers when it comes to parasocial relationships. You know, there's been things in social media that you see as like comfort streamers, right? Who, you know, sometimes they, you know, comfort streamers could absolutely have thousands, but you do see, you tend to see like a little bit of a smaller number, like 20, 30, but the connection to that streamer is really what is, or not necessarily a streamer, but a YouTube personality, anything like that, is what seems to be so strong and very important. Which I guess kind of leads into something that I'm genuinely curious about too, is why and how sort of these relationships form. What's the reasoning versus, is there a biological component? Is there strictly just the social component? How does it seem to form?
So just to sort of reiterate that, Matt, because they're saying you're a little bit quiet. So the question here is how do these parasocial relationships form? What's the processing like, you know? And having been looking in the chat a little bit of parasocial interaction in a sort of microcosm here. It is something that pretty much everyone does, to some degree. Some people are certainly more prone than others. I think it's just a trait, you know. You're more likely, potentially more empathetic, perhaps. You know, those are things that we could probably study more. I don't know that we have, and I'm not saying we as in the people here, we as in the research community. And some people have found some variables that are indicative of potential parasocial relationship formation. Some from the superficial, like how attractive the person is. We don't want to be friends with ugly people.
Or orange tabby cats.
Orange tabby cats. No way.
Be friends with orange tabby cats, though.
I wasn't saying that was for me.
Yeah, for my cat, she doesn't want to be friends with orange tabby cats that hang out outside my house. Or, you know, things like, is this a relatable person? So characters that are quote unquote Mary Sue's tend to be difficult to form relationships with because people can't relate. And even when a character is in a fantasy setting or has like crazy powers or something, people still need to feel like they're acting as a real person would in that setting. Otherwise, it's like, okay, like this isn't a real thing. You don't want to break that feeling, like that feeling of this is a real true person. So there are variables like that. as I sort of alluded to before, and I would be curious to look up and see if there are like fMRI studies on this. I don't know any off the top of my head.
What is fMRI?
Oh, sorry, that's whenever they put you in an MRI machine and study your brain
Oh,
waves.
right. Okay.
Functional magnetic resonance imaging.
Got
There
it.
you go.
Got it.
So I would be curious to see if there were any of those. I don't know any off the top of my head, but essentially your brains, as I kind of alluded to before, are still very much in lizard brain mode. We can't evolve fast enough to keep up with changes in technology. It's not possible. So our brains still very much act as though, you know, it's real.
Right.
I know one of the things historically that research has looked at, the kinds of people who form these relationships, especially even with like the game show hosts and things, right? And the like broadcasters in the earliest research, were also like people who were kind of socially isolated. So people who didn't necessarily have other social connections. I think that's something that's also really interesting to think about, talking about, you know, the evolution of parasocial relationships in the age of Twitch, right? In the age of social media. So people who are maybe really drawn to Twitch interact with others, or even the streamer, if the streamer's not, you know, again, they perceive to them, and again, they're talking to like their whole community, right? But I think that can be a really comforting thing to someone who otherwise has no other social outlets, right? Something that I have found in some of my own recent research is you know, having a sense of vicarious achievement, you know, which I think is related to identification, which Emery brought up earlier. You know, so seeing a streamer succeed in something, right, can fill a viewer with a lot of excitement, and even that sense that they too have somehow played a role in that person's success, or, you know, just being excited and feeling elevated by them. So yeah, I mean, there's, again, I think it all kind of comes down to personal individuals and cognitive makeup and even social makeup in some ways. But we can see some of those parallels from the oldest models of media, I think, also playing out in interesting ways in new interactive media as well.
And I do think historically there's something to be said for that social isolation model. There are areas to where they would say, a research would say, this is more of a complement to kind of boost other relationships that a person has. So it's like, if you were to be a particularly extroverted person, this would just be a cherry on top that you're having this connection with. And I will say that things like parasocial relationships are ubiquitous. They are constantly everywhere around you, whether it be something considered trivial like sports or you know, gaming or something like that. Even though I think those things are incredibly important, it transcends to things like politics, for example, of what we would consider, quote, more important. And we have those relationships with people that are streamers, politicians, what have you. So I always kind of challenge people when they say, well, I don't have parasocial relationships. That's things that's fake. And that's, you know, for kids when they're watching television show. I'm like, no. If you've never had an actual drink with a politician, you don't know that person. And even if you have, you don't really know that person. So, you know, you can't really say, well, this is what that person would do in a situation like that. The other thing I want to mention is that this particular theory, it kind of stems under something called social presence. And social presence ultimately is this illusion of technology when you're watching something. So I don't know if this is something that where it stems from, but it enhances it for what streamers do so well, which streamers come in and say, hey, y'all, hope y'all are doing well. We're going to talk about this input. And then you would look at something like, it was so wonderful for y'all to come and join my stream. Love you guys, care about conversation. We'd love for you to be part of our community. And for many people, that may be a call to say, while that streamer doesn't really love me, but it may be kind of a community familial kind of love and respect that you know, a community would have on a Twitch or a Discord. And that too, a lot of people is really special. And so for things like that, that can elevate a PSR very quickly to where it's almost like this person wants it to be more than what the streamer thinks it is or wants it to be. Because our research between Ariane, Steph, and I really centered around that was how much does a streamer actually feel like this is an actual relationship? So, and again, it can move very fast where one person has one interaction with a streamer or an influencer and like, I really like this person. I'm going to keep following, whether they're attractive, whether they're credible. These are all variables that really bring people to the table to where they want to participate and they want to stay.
I would say that that's would be a good resemblance of that. Honestly, would be when Emery and I first met in person. He took a picture of me and texted it to me. You know, he's like, "Hey, now we're in this relationship here." But I think that another aspect.
What a creep!
Right? That's what I think that was.
You are taking this so out of context.
So now we are going.
You have such an active imagination.
we're going into the boundaries of aspects of everything.
Absolutely. It was a great transition. Thank you.
You were waiting for that.
But it's also the idea of the mental health of not just the streamer, but the person who's having that parasocial relationship, which is kind of a little bit more of what we work with as a licensed clinician is how do we get them out of that parasocial relationship and how do we get them into a place of understanding that while I may interact with them in an online format or watch them on something, there is not necessarily a relationship there. And I know one of the big ways that we tend to do that is we ask certain questions of, oh, how do you know this person? Well, I watch them on TV. Well, how have you interacted with them? Well, I haven't. Where are you going to a con or something along those lines to really kind of meet them? Really cool. You know, you're going to have these types of interactions with them, but it's also important to make sure that when we work with the mental health, not just of streamers, but as on the other side, as the people who are having these events, we have to make sure that they're prepared and ready to know that the person's going to look great in a picture and you're going to have a fond memory of that picture, but they're not going to remember you after that when they do this picture signing, when they have to do 1,600 of them in less than 2 hours. And that's okay. That's not anything negative towards you. It's in nature of the business on some level too. And it's okay to have those feelings, but also being able to know where that line is and how do we make sure we don't cross that line into crazy stalking territory.
I will say the first time that I've, on a clinical sense, was exposed to, and back then I actually didn't even know the name, but to this idea of parasocial relationship was more so of a grief process, actually. You know, unfortunately, I had a lot of clients at the time who were very familiar and loved Etika, and a lot of his issues and a lot of things were very public and very publicized. And I remember I had that day 3 clients come in significantly affected as if this was a family member to realize that he passed. So, and I think, Dr. Bean, you're right. For clinicians, it is very, very important to recognize that these relationships are going to mimic the same, if not, well, it's going to mimic the exact same symptoms, even if it's not a family member, even if it's not somebody who's close, even if it's somebody that they've sort of watched through a screen. Because, and the more I listen to a lot of these stories and what the relationship was, you know, they grew up watching YouTube videos, loved the reactions to certain things. This was somebody that they felt strongly for. And so it is important for all clinicians, I guess, in a sense, to be able to recognize that, work with it, but to also address it and make it into more of a healthy manner. Which I guess does lead into sort of the next thing. When do parasocial relationships become negative, or when do they become bad, or when do they have the capacity to become bad, I should say?
I think there's something to kind of make I think there's something that needs to be kind of addressed with this, because there is what we're calling negative parasocial relationships, where you would have a media figure that you do not like. And this isn't one of those, I love to hate this, bad person. This is, I'm actually having difficulty watching this program. And to where a lot of scholars would say there's no such thing as a negative parasocial relationship, because you could just leave. And from what Ariane was saying with Joffrey and maybe Ramsay on Game of Thrones, to some extent, I hate to say it's hard to leave. because I loved that show so much at the time that even though I was watching these terrible things, it was very difficult for me to keep watching, but I kind of stayed with it. As far as the dangers of parasocial relationships, this was actually something, and Steph, maybe you want to take a little bit of a crack at this one, because we actually kind of found some examples on Twitter about where streamers were expressing these dangers that they were having with their audience members.
Yeah. Kind of one of the things that had jump-started some of our research into this was me and Emery having a conversation about tweets where streamers were talking about kind of the voyeuristic nature of Twitch. You're letting people into a huge part of your private life, right? When you decide to stream. Even right now, like except for Matt, but most of us, like, you can see the rooms we're in, right? I'm in like my guest room with my messy unmade bed that Emery called me out on before we went live. Or thanks, buddy.
You really are becoming the villain here, Emery.
I would sit there.
Really are.
If we've learned nothing else from this panel, is that Emery is a jerk.
Everyone's going to develop a negative.
I second this notion.
I mean, maybe Midoriya, maybe you are more the Bakugo.
I could very well be. Given my track reputation here.
but the things that you choose to like display in your rooms, right? Like the posters on the wall, or like the decor you have, or like Anthony's many degrees, or
that's not. Oh my gosh, you transitioned. Oh, you are.
I got you. No, just kidding.
You are too much.
No. But no, I'm saying like the spaces that you're in and that you choose to display to people, right? Like communicate something about you, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. And, so you're letting people into this very private window of your life. And some people take that really far, right? And think that in inviting you into sort of this space, right, temporarily, that's also an invitation for like real friendship, right? Or romantic relationships in some case. So that was like something we were finding, where streamers talking about issues they had with members of their community sort of overstepping those boundaries, right? And making them uncomfortable. In the most extreme senses, that was things like stalking, right? And showing up at people's houses or sending unsolicited gifts and things, like maybe hoping for something to come of that relationship as a result, to kind of more benign things, but like constantly messaging them as if, like it was, just the five of us, like, hey, you want to hang out kind of thing, right? And so, we were just finding that this is something that, obviously streamers want to build community, but how do you sort of define that barrier between having, a online presence, right? And then also maintaining boundaries between your private life and having community members respect that. Does that kind of answer your question, Em? Sort of along.
Yeah, and I will say that the majority of what was talked about was not to that extreme, although there were instances that were occurring, Steph, and I'm really glad that you addressed that, because it needs to be addressed, that it can get into some very dicey and scary examples. This kind of came up in terms of conversations where some researchers that I would talk to say, well, there's no such thing as parasocial interaction in relationships on stream. And the reason for that is because the streamer can talk back. They have the capacity to do so. And it wasn't until one of our interviews that we were talking to a streamer and they said, well, what about lurkers? There are people who are watching on their PlayStation and they're not going to use the keyboard function, because why would you? Because it's going to take a long time to type. And so what would happen is, from the stream then to the con, this person would come up to a streamer saying, like, this is my best friend, I am so glad to see you. And the streamer would have no idea, not even through a username, no idea who this person was. And so for the most part, it was in many ways less scary, but more awkward, to where the streamer would almost take this personally, where they were like, I feel like I should know this person. They feel so strongly about me, and yet I don't even know their username, or I don't know their name. This is so weird. And so, this is why many streamers would sit there and say, this is why I have group meetings, group get-togethers. So I'll post on my Twitter saying, hey, I'm going downstairs at the the merch floor or whatever, and say, "Come join me down there." And they would, and they'd have a whole crowd around them. And for the most part, that would make them feel a little bit better. But I will say, as an observation that didn't come up in the actual interview, but it was just really interesting to see, was that when streamers were walking around the floor at conventions we were at, their mods would be right there standing next to them. And it was almost like, what was it? That scene from, I forget the movie, where they act as a buffer, or somebody be like, "That's so-and-so. They commented something in your chat. You know them because," to me, Devil Wears Prada, where Anne Hathaway is kind of saying to Meryl Streep, "You know this person because they're et cetera, et cetera." And
fantastic movie, by the way.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. But it just felt so odd to me that I'm like, you're bringing your mod around you at all times. And the mod's like, "Well, yeah, because for the most part, the streamer here doesn't even know what's going on. It's me who's handling all the messages."
Yeah, I mean, especially if the streamer's like playing a game or something, right? Like they can't possibly keep track of what's going on.
Absolutely.
And think about it too. If you have a streamer who's got like thousands and thousands of viewers, it's much harder to sort of keep a track and understand as to who is the most active, who is doing this, who is really talking. I'd have no idea. It really is that Devil Wears Prada sort of situation. Like, well, no, this is so and so. He's been within the chat since kind of like day one, and doing really well. Say hi to them.
I think an interesting thing that you brought up too is this notion. Yeah, people are like, "I can't be parasocial," but it's really about the imbalance, right? The audience member in this case knows an awful lot about the streamer, or at least they think they do. They perceive that they do. The streamer knows next to nothing about the audience member, and even if they are capable of, putting something in the chat, saying, "Thanks for whatever, responding to them on Twitter, whatever," they still don't know who they are, and that I think is it is different when it's a fictional person, right? Because you have no hope that this person knows who you are because they don't exist, right? Captain America, not a real person. Whoever, not a real person. I'm sorry if I've just...
How dare you?
I was just about to say, you stop it. Captain America is real to me.
Maybe the true Captain America is the friends we made along the way.
Oh, good one.
Well, I need to leave. Thank you. No.
I also think it's important to know that while we're talking about streamers and them specifically, this also happens with anime characters, with other types of media. So it's not just on an animated platform of, let's say, Twitch or YouTube or something like that. It goes into a lot of different things, whether it's reading a manga, whether it's reading a book. People have had these relationships with people of an author of a book just because they read everything that they have and like, "Oh my God, I love this person." And you're like, you're loving the characters and the mindscape of that person. And that's just a tiny portion of them. That's not what encompasses it all. Like when we work with parents and kids who are worried about getting so many likes on Instagram or so many things on Facebook, they're really worried about that outward shell. And we try to make sure that we tell them, like, look, social media and everything else is a shell of who you are. It's not truly representative of you. That's what they get to see. That is not what they get to know. So if you don't know all these other things, which if you don't share them or you don't know specifics about them because you're really deep friends with them, then you're not going to know that person, and you have this image in your mind of how this person actually is, or the character that they're playing, which is why Supernatural, the show, was so popular, because of not just the mental health themes, but because of the way that the characters portrayed their character and they fell into it. And I think that is one of the big things that we definitely want to make sure that comes into play, because I know when, and sorry if you guys haven't seen it, but like Escanor from Seven Deadly Sins, man. It's a heartbreaking. It's the heartbreaking stuff coming up, guys. All right, but Escanor, he's one of my favorite ones, and it's hard. It's a hard thing coming.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry.
literally, the first introduction that I had to parasocial relationships when I was in college, working with a woman named Dr. Megan Sanders over at Louisiana State University. Go Tigers. And I was working as an undergrad research assistant with her, and nothing wound up coming up with this project, but just to illustrate kind of what we're talking about here, one of the first projects she had me working on was, at the time, this show House was a big show, and a character in the show, Kuttner, rather abruptly committed suicide on this show. It wasn't really telegraphed, like people didn't know this was coming, because the actor left the show. And there were Facebook groups that came about that were like in memory of this character. And she had me go through the Facebook page and kind of pull all of the stuff that people were saying, and people were literally acting as though this was someone they knew. Like, if you ever had, someone that on Facebook pass away, you kind of know how people will then go on their page, like, it was just yesterday that I spoke to you, and things like that, kind of like memorializing them. And people were doing that to this fictional character. And so we totally just react that way, even when it is a fictional character. The difference is that fictional characters can't respond to us and streamers can. And I think sometimes people forget that it is parasocial. And so, there's that line, like, oh, I'm going to shoot my shot, I'm going to slide into the DMs, right? It maybe in a romantic sense, maybe just like, hey, I want to be friends, because there's kind of a perception that maybe, just maybe, it can become a two-sided thing. And I think that is part of the danger, particularly with streamers and YouTubers, or even celebrities, right? Because it's parasocial still, but there's that perception that because it's a real person, because they can respond to me, maybe it might not be parasocial forever.
And I think there, like you said, kind of does lie more on, maybe on a clinical sense, the need for clinicians to continue to promote more positive interactions within an individual social circle, right? Not necessarily needing to remove any of the, positive coping skills, but more so to help to teach better engagement with peers, other members, things like that, to mitigate sort of the potential for that negative parasocial relationship, right? Because I see sort of over and over on social media too, right? There is this, and it's becoming more popular, I've noticed on social media, this aspect of parasocial relationships. I've seen YouTubers kind of talk about it, joke about it for the most part. But there was a TikTok, and yes, I said TikTok as a 30-year-old man, that really did speak about, a fellow Twitch streamer who was kind of having a hard time because somebody that they looked up to kind of got caught up in a controversy, and now it's, their whole world or their whole view of this person has completely changed, but they never met them once. And it really is this odd, at least the way that it was described in this TikTok, it was like this odd feeling, because it's sort of setting in like, I really didn't know this person, but for a long time I felt like I did, and now they went and did this and got caught up in this, and it becomes this really awkward feeling. And clinicians may not necessarily know exactly what that is, which is why it's important to recognize, especially with a, ever-growing larger, especially, again, at 30, like, I can't talk to teenagers anymore, and it hurts me, although I'm trying. But it's important for us, I think, as clinicians to always remember that there are other things going on here as the world sort of changes and becomes more digital than anything else.
I think what you were talking about is when that shell breaks and it cracks. In psychology, we call it a persona. And when you're on, like when we're streaming here, this is not normally how we act or anything along those lines. You get us all together in a bar and it's hands off, like it's a whole different world. Like we have our personas on here right now, and we have those specifically for this right here. When those crack, you get to see the person a little bit more, and kind of like who they are. And it's not necessarily bad or good or anything like that. It's our essence. It's who we are. And where everyone kind of has a very similar experience with the same person, and they feel betrayed because their character didn't feel like it got into a different type of place. There is also another issue, what we call in the psychology, of the collective unconscious coming together, because that's where that like archetypal image of that persona comes into play. And that's where a lot of the concerns stem from a mental health perspective.
Apologies
It reminds
for
me of Misery. The movie Misery, you know.
That's a great example.
Yeah, that's like
It's
the
a
ultimate
great
example.
Ooh,
Oh,
I'm
so
gonna
good.
get yelled at. I don't think I've seen this movie. Could you explain that a little bit?
It's a Stephen King novel originally.
Okay.
The plot of Misery is that this writer is tired of writing like this series, and he's like, I'm gonna kill off this character named Misery. And this super fan is like, no, you will not do that. And she locks him in her cabin and breaks his feet, I guess his ankles. Real
With a
graphic
hammer.
scene with a big old hammer and a block of wood. She hobbles him, is like, can't leave now, fix it. Because she felt like some ownership over this character that she didn't have, because she was not the author. But she was convinced that this character is, you know, hers. And because she had this relationship with Misery, she was like, you're not leaving here until you write a new book and talking about like how she somehow survived and everything that she wanted for Misery was going to happen. So, you know, other stuff happens, but that's like the main conceit of the book and the movie. And it's totally like, just when you guys were talking just now, I was like, this is like Misery.
I know this.
Or Swim Fan. Swim Fan's another great
Oh,
one.
Swim Fan's a great example. Yeah.
So we're about 8 minutes left, so I do kind of want to throw it out, and we do have a question. I did throw it in the Zoom chat, but I'll just read it out loud. So the question is, what about as a streamer with viewers that are consistent in their support and also end up streaming and hope or expect the streamer to be in their stream? What would you guys say to something like that? Or, yeah.
That's a fantastic question, and for someone who, I mean, I do stream every week, and it is something where viewers not have really overtly said, please come to my stream, but there might be some implications that if I show up to your stream, it's nice for you to come in. And I feel that as someone who streams a little bit, and I'm kind of going, well, maybe I should go in. The area with parasocial relationships is this essence of reciprocity, to where you do not need that reciprocity for something that's parasocial. That is strictly a social relationship trait. The biggest thing that I kept seeing through our interviews when Aria and Steph and I were doing those in our conventions were that most people were treating this like it was like a public relations example, where they would set up rules and boundaries right off the bat before they even got started, because the majority of them would sit there and go, y'all, I just thought video games were cool. I was going to put it on camera, and if people thought it was interesting, that's cool. Like, that was 90% of what was said. But for the most part, they learned very quickly, and I love this kind of mentality for people trying to kind of fake it until they make it kind of deal, where they would say, I need to establish this boundary. And one of them is that you are part of my community. I care about my community, but at the same time, my time to me is very precious. And so because you're part of a community doesn't necessarily mean we're friends. Doesn't mean that I have to make this, that I have to do this. If I do raid your channel or if I do visit, that's great. but it's something you cannot expect. And laying down those rules right off the bat when you are establishing your channel is something, because I've done a streaming class before. It's one of the first things I tell my class: get it done now, because then there is very little wiggle room for a person to get really upset with you or take screenshots of something of you getting upset on a DM or on Discord or something. Because obviously, because what was mentioned is, social media is kind of your own personal PR, that you don't want that to reflect on you poorly, especially if you're trying to establish a brand as a caring streamer. So, but having those rules, having that established, having your mods know those rules, that's another important thing, will help it to where that expectation, you might still have those problems, but they will be less.
Yeah. And to jump in too, I think there's also this aspect of, as a person who's trying to stream or wants to stream, like you mentioned, not to have that expectation, but again, to kind of practice that and remember that too, right? We're not, not to sound crass or anything, but we're not necessarily owed anything. We're sort of doing this because we want to and because it's fun, and that's okay, right? We talk about setting boundaries with others, but we also have to set boundaries within ourselves too, and because in the end, that is what is helpful for us. That's what helps us to learn, grow, and kind of just be able to adapt to how the environment is going to work around us a little bit too. So there is this, I think there's a stronger notion of not to expect anything, but when it does happen, love it, cherish it, praise the hell out of it, be happy about it when it does happen, but don't be angry and upset when it doesn't, because that only hurts you more than anything else.
I think the nature of support matters too, right? Because I feel like when money gets involved, right? It's one thing if like you're a regular who tunes in on the stream and talks in the chat, but let's say you're someone who donates $100 like every so often, right? Or like some of these crazy streams I've been in where they're like, here's $1,000, making it rain, or gifting 100 subs or something insane, right? And then, I think for some people that extra layer adds this additional perception of entitlement, right? And again, some of that reciprocity that becomes expected, right? And like, okay, what's this streamer gonna do for me? Are they gonna show up in my stream and gift subs and all those kinds of things, right? So I just feel like, some of the affordances, right? Some of the capabilities of Twitch and this interactive platform can kind of feed into some of the uglier side of what we've been talking about as well, right? It's not just following or liking somebody's stuff, but, literally feeling like a financial contributor and, as was mentioned earlier, like you own some part of them, right?
Right.
In a really
like you're a shareholder almost, in a sense.
Yeah,
As to somebody's stream.
that's a perfect way to think of it. Exactly.
And a small note on that, one of my favorite lines that I heard was a streamer telling us, the rules are the rules and they apply to everybody no matter what is going on. So they said, yeah, you donate $1,000, that's great. That does not entitle you to be a jerk on my stream. And when that was said, I got goosebumps. I was like, I love that, because I feel it too. And I feel like a lot of people who are mentioning on chat feel the same way, is that they like to please people and they don't want to have this mark on their name for, calling somebody out when they donated so much money or something like that. But no, it does. The rules are the rules, and that's what you establish.
And I think right there is sort of the perfect place where, unfortunately, we'll have to table this conversation, even though we could probably go on for about 7 more hours, and as much as I would love to. So why don't we go around quickly, if we can, just to, again, say who you are, as well as where they can find you on Twitter, just in case anybody in the chat has additional questions. Free for all. Whoever wants to start.
I'll start.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, so it looks like my Twitter handle's right there on the overlay. But yeah, Stephanie Orm. I'm pretty active. I tweet, academic stuff, but also weird gaming stuff and things about dogs. So if you're interested in that, there I am.
I would say it's safe to say that Steph has a parasocial relationship, not just with any breed, but with the canines.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
That's true.
Dr. Bean, go ahead.
You can find me online on my personal Twitter at VideoGameDoc, or follow us on Geek Therapeutics, and you can find us all through social media of just searching for Geek Therapeutics.
Awesome. I don't want to mispronounce the last name, Dr. Ariana. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Fashoa. That's FERCHAUDA. I tweet about really nonsense. So the saga of my cat and the orange cat has been on Twitter. LSU sports and things related to that. Things related to academia and being Black in academia, video games. Had a nice conversation about whether I should get an Xbox, random stuff. Don't go there if you expect it to be any sort of coherent, but
it tells a story.
Absolutely.
Does tell a story.
Dr. Emery.
I'm at Fusro Doc. You can see there FUSRODOC. I tweet a lot about social media. I tweet a lot about things like advertising. I tweet a lot about gaming. You will get these spells of sports while a game is going on, fair warning. But other than that, I think I'm notorious for if anybody has any questions about things like parasocial relationships, boundaries with streaming, any personal examples, we're going to talk about reopening up this study again to kind of have people share their feelings, especially in the COVID era. So, but again, I'm always open to talk about it, and that's where you can find me. I'm very active on it.
Last but not least,
a lot of anime gifts too.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I love anime gifts. Yes.
Last but not least,
wars.
My name is Matthew. You can find me at Cryrish920. I will also be on the spaceship over at the Guardians Mental Health booth, which is right across from St. Jude. So go check out St. Jude and then come by me if you have any questions. Thank you all very much, and thank you all for attending. All the doctors on the panel, thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, your patience, and we'll see everybody on the spaceship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good.
Welcome back to the GCX main event. That panel hit hard in so many ways. Like, as a creator, there are so many aspects that you don't know going into it, like that you just have to learn, especially when it comes to like separating and owning your own time and setting your boundaries. And that can be hard. Like, as a people pleaser, I struggle significantly with that, even to this day. And I've been streaming for freaking 6 years. It's
always interesting to hear that, because I find myself in the opposite vein. Like, even hearing, like, the rules are the rules, doesn't matter what you donate. And I have this, and it's a bit, and we were talking about this as we were watching it. I know I've got my big, if you guys don't know, I'm 6'4", 260 something pounds. Like, I'm big Black, which comes with its own set of, whether they be stereotypes, whatever. I am big, male, and also a minority. There is so much baked into me of, I'm not worried about what anybody else thinks. Confrontation, we'll call it that. So it's interesting to listen and hear, because a lot of this I assumed was just rules that Like, I know that I'm not going to play if anybody's doing this, and I've got my boundaries that are very clear, but it's important for folks like yourself and others. Like, I got to understand that my viewpoint's not the only one, and it's good to hear that guidance.
It is. I mean, as somebody who has set boundaries, they're still crossed. People will find every way that they can to cross boundaries and push your buttons and figure out what makes you either upset or what allows them to get closer to you. And they were talking about how, like, people can do big donations and things like that. And as somebody who has dealt with the negatives of ulterior motives with that, just like, dang, you constantly have like that little panic and you're like, oh, thank you. Crap, what do you want?
I get that. That part I do understand too. But super intriguing. We'll throw it out that way. I always think of my flight or fight reaction, and there's
like what, fight, flight, or fawn. Like, if you are somebody that just kind of stands there, I'm a fawn. I don't know how to do anything.
Wait, fawn? Just, it's like deer in headlights?
Yeah, like a deer in headlights.
Oh,
I don't run. I don't fight. I'm just like,
See, and my problem is I'm too far on the other side. I'm all fight. I am all fight.
I'll stand behind you. Yeah.
Oh my God, My girlfriend will wake me up in my sleep, and my instant reaction is to swing. Just don't mess with me. Like, I don't like it. Oh, she's like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Nothing."
Like,
Just
"We're gonna swing that way.
yeah, that's exactly it. No, I love to hear it though. It was an absolutely great thing, and of course, we've got a ton more stuff coming up for you, including what's up next. Let me make sure I get this. We're going to talk about. We're talking Destiny, and we're talking more lore, and it's
more lore.
More lore. We always need more lore, right?
We're gonna.
You gotta forgive me. My dog just knocked stuff over.
You're
Is
right.
it?
Yeah.
I met him once in Germany, and it was so exciting.
In Germany, that's so fun.
Gamescom. We were at Gamescom.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Bife is like Destiny lore daddy. Like that is who Bife is, and he's got the voice to draw you in. You're just like, yeah, you can tell me every lie, and I'll believe it.
Yeah, right. That's him. That is absolutely him.
Listen to Bife.
It'll be good. It'll be good. What are you hoping to hear in the lore conversation?
I'm just hoping to honestly hear more about the newer content, because I kind of fell off when the layers became a thing in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
So I've missed quite a bit. Like, I've kept up with updates here and there on Twitter, but other than that, I haven't been as involved in Destiny. So we'll have
That's what I need. I need like the refresher, the entire recap, because I've never been one. Grimoire was always like tough for me.
Oh,
having to having to get that extraneous info throughout those cards and whatnot. So people like Bife being able to break it down in his long rendered videos. Yeah, like you knew exactly where I was going.
But they're good. Like, you just listen.
They're
to like,
so good. You can listen. You can be doing other things, and they're wonderful. So that's what we've got coming up next for you. But first, we're gonna take a short ad break. So give us a few minutes. We're gonna get that set up, and we'll see you back here in just a sec.
Annual at this point GCX Destiny lore panel. My name is Bife, and as per usual, I'm being joined by some wonderful members of the lore community. I'm not entirely sure how things are set up on the stream in comparison, but I'm just going to go through a list as a result. Joining me on this stream, we have the good Sir Mylan Games, all the way from down under. Say hi.
G'day.
We have Baxter representing the Ishtar Collective.
Hi everyone.
We have Hey It's Orchid, who I believe is attached to Focus Fire Chat, if I'm not mistaken.
I am. Hi.
Hello.
Not literally attached.
Not physically attached.
Where are they?
Physically attached.
He's
not here right now. He is away.
We
is underwater.
We are very happy to have you all the same. It's great having you faces on the panel. We have Smart of Psalm Lab.
Hello. Nice to meet everybody. See everybody.
And we have Rhino 666, who is of Destiny Armory Defined, I believe, is the Twitter that you've set up for that, isn't it?
That is right.
Yeah.
Hello.
So, lots of members from around the community. Everybody is here to go ahead and discuss lore. To give you a really quick rundown of format, we had some questions that we asked everybody to go ahead and submit earlier in the week on Twitter. We will go through those, but first we're going to start with a quick discussion on things that have been going on this season and our thoughts with regards to the lore of the game and where things are at current with the season of the Splicer. So, who wants to take that topic away?
I was going to say, every previous lore panel, we've looked upon the faces of the lore community and we've said, who likes the lore? Give us a cheer. But we can't do that. So can we get a virtual cheer and chat? Does anyone like lore? Thanks for coming. Oh, it'll be good times. Yeet.
Thank you very much to everybody who's showing up. Oh yeah, there we go. Lots of cheers and hype in the chat.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Sorry, what was the question? How's this season going?
What are our thoughts on this season? If it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and toss that question to either Joe or Orchid or Rhino, seeing as this is the first time on the panel for all of you three. I say Jack. Smart. My apologies. Your alias being Smart Joe is always what throws me off. But yes, Smart or Orchid or Rhino, would one of you three like to start?
The lore is great. I'm enjoying the stories. I play more Crucible than I do PvE. I'm more of a shotgun ape than I am a PvE person. I'm more found in trials than anything else, but I have a very comfy backpack. But I enjoy reading all the stories. That's why we're here. So everything is very immersive, and I think like the cherry on the proverbial dessert of lore this season was probably the black and white ink cutscene that we had that was just like very meaningful and emotional that we had. That was like probably my favorite thing we've had so far.
Yeah, can we get more of those, please, Bungie? Please, just put as many of them as you can get into every season. Thanks.
All of those. We just have them all the time.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the coolest things that's happened this season is that we've seen that dynamic from both the sides of the Elixni interacting with humanity, and it's always been seen through this lens of, literally calling them the Fallen and seeing them only as adversaries and aggressors, and sitting there and being able to apply empathy to individuals that previously were our enemies has allowed us to really open up a whole bunch of new story opportunities. And even just roaming around the Elixni Quarter for the first time and seeing the Elixni graffiti that very clearly looks like Saint 14's helmet, it gives us an entirely different side to the story, which I think is fascinating and really exciting to explore, because we get to see two peoples steadily merging together and uniting as allies. So that's really
that was really nice how that that symbol looked like Saint, and obviously they were talking about Guardians. You like, it sort of looks like Saint, and then we got that ink blot, cutscene, like, oh my god, Saint's a monster, you absolute disgusting Guardian. The poor children, think of the small, and oh no, just in fear of Saint 14 kicking in their front door. It's been really good.
Yeah.
The real question is, has everybody changed their default, I'm going to go ahead and test out this new weapon I got, drop zone, from Trossland over to somewhere on the moon, so that you're no longer killing a random Elixni out there in the wild, and instead you're murdering some terrible hive?
I mean, they like it, the hive, right? Kill the hive. They want it. That's their whole culture.
That's a good point. I mean, I've always felt like I was saying before we started the chat, I've always had a soft spot for the Elixni, and I would always, like, whenever I'm doing a strike or anything where I can avoid shooting Elixni, I've always tried my best to not shoot them, which isn't always possible because sometimes like there's a checkpoint and you just have to kill Fallen, which has always upset me. But that it is what it is. But I think the biggest, you were saying about the like these two peoples coming together. And I think the biggest thing for me is, as I said, I've always had a soft spot for the Elixni. I've also always been a Future War supporter. And I think something that's really good about the way that this season has developed is that, I think that, revealing more kind of Lakshmi's perspectives, I've kind of, I've totally, changed my, I think like a lot of people, I no longer want to support Future War Cult, and I just think it's great that Bungie have made me, when you pick a side, it's like supporting a football team or something, or like when you pick a faction, it's like, I'm gonna, these are my guys, these are my people, and now it's like, wait, actually, my people aren't good people. I don't,
we just got hit with the your footballers on the news doing some criminal activity.
Yeah.
Not me football club. Stop.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
Patriots, Deflategate.
I mean, I think for me this season, I think what they've done better than any other season is they've put all the little pieces together in a very continuous, coherent way. So you've got, you got the in-game dialogue, you've got the I don't know if we've had previous seasons, but I feel like every time there's like some Mithrax text dialogue, we've actually got audio dialogue with it. And it sort of says it in a different way. So if you don't listen to the audio, you can read the text. If you don't read the text, you can listen to the audio. And then you've got the ink cutscenes, and then you've got the little, in game they stand next to each other and they interact, and you've got the holograms, and so you've got all these tiny little like lore pieces that are all telling the same story. And so it doesn't really matter if you're the loot and shoot and just skip everything. There's enough sort of fishing hooks out there to get people. I think that's probably been what's got a lot of people this season, is you've caught a piece of dialogue or you've caught a piece of lore and it's sort of nabbed your interest. And I think and also the topic that Lakshmi 2 brings is obviously pretty prominent in with Corona and the state of many countries, so it's sort of pretty close to home for a lot of people as well. So we've got a lot of new lore nerds coming in, or wannabe lore nerds. Please tell us the lore. So I think they've done a great job this season in getting people excited about the story, and that's pretty big considering there's no big villain when you think about it. What's the big villain this season? A simulation.
So, I mean, Sabbath.
Don't say it.
Maybe. Why would you debate me like that?
Sorry, it was spoilers. Wait, did we do the spoilers warning?
you. Oh, this is another thing. We're not going to talk. Up until a second ago, when Matt made a comment that lured me in like that. We were not going to discuss. We weren't going to discuss things that have happened in the last week or so. So for everybody who is doing this, and go play the weekly story if you haven't already. It's fascinating developments. Like good things happen. Like good things. Yeah. My apologies. I felt I got lured in by that's bait. That's
right.
Matt must be some sort of trickster god. Clearly.
Oh man.
Am I allowed to say
we know the worm god is behind him.
Yeah.
It's Akka in disguise.
But that's my point, right? I mean, think about it like from a story perspective, how much discussion we've had around Lakshmi, and she's not a typical villain, and I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I would say she's not a villain at all. I don't agree with her views. But she's not a villain. She believes she is doing what she's doing for the right reasons. And like maybe if we had access to this device, we would be as blinded as she is. I don't think so, but maybe.
I believe that you're right about her doing it for the right reasons, but with the stochastic variable lore tab and her potentially trying to maneuver herself into becoming the dictator of the city.
You're right.
I sit there and I wonder whether it's not a case of she doesn't believe, but I wonder whether all her reasons are good faith reasons, It's I'll protect the city and also become its ruler at the same time. I mean, who am I to say no to defending the city? It
almost sounds like New Monarchy you're talking about.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, that's what's so fascinating about this, though, is because it's an actually really complicated political character that has more than one motivation, and so you can view them through a variety of different lenses. That's what's so brilliant about.
It's so perfect. It really illuminates the fact that nothing is black and white, and there's many shades of gray, and the game is really pushing us to have to confront our own inner enemies, or our own demons, if you will. And it's great because you can show that humanity is a very diverse and complicated thing, as it is in real life and in the game, and all of these things are topical, so it really helps you wrestle with a lot of the controversial things that are happening in today's world.
I think it's something else to really point out is that I don't think I've sat there and seen a single lore tab or conversation that doesn't discuss what are honestly very, within the context of Destiny, very tricky issues to try and discuss in a bad faith manner. And I think that's really good. And some really good examples of that are going to be, the Drifter in the Borrowed Time Lord tab, which we were talking about a whole bunch before the stream started. And then, of course, Mithrax and Saint 14's interpretation of, we called them the Crusades of Saint 14. But, to Mithrax, it was a monster coming to butcher the houses, and that's... Yeah, it giving people that fair context of both sides of the story and showing what it's really meant, and the fact that there is no really perfect side to this has given people the opportunity to sit there and say, okay, so what have we learned? I think the best one of all of this comes from Survivor's Epitaph, which I don't know if anyone's read it, but it's the Crucible hand cannon, where it's Shax and Mithrax sitting down and saying, hey, we've all killed people. And I think the real thing to come away from with this is that if we're really going to feel towards peace, you've got to choose mercy.
I've killed people.
He's just like, I killed three people. They were probably starving, but I was a warlord, and people were singing the legend that I had coaxed up with them, and everybody was basically lying about how good I was in that context. So it's
Lord, yeah.
Like there's so many conversations that frame the actual grander image of what's going on in the season in a good faith manner. And I think that's a testament not just to good writing, but to being very aware of the dynamics of everything that really goes on behind it all. So bravo to Bungie on that one.
Yeah, I think for this season, I'm really... I think that the end of this season, I think is going to really... I'm hoping is going to be the cherry on top, because everything's been phenomenal so far, and I think it really needs that home run ending, and it's setting everything up for that, and I hope we get it, because I think if it does, this would probably be one of my top seasons in regards to story, if they can get that home run at the end. And I think that's always been a bit hard with these seasons, not like the big releases, but the ones in between. It's always been a bit hard to have all those resources in there to really drive it home, but I think they're using all the resources they've got at the moment really well. So
if I might go ahead and put something out there, which I think at the time of Season of the Chosen might have sounded like a controversial thing and being like, nah, this is a flash in the pan. This year's seasonal content has proven that Bungie can make masterful story in seasonal content, and has proven that, at least as far as the story is concerned, they are now in a completely different place. I mean, everybody remembers, at least if you're a Destiny 1 veteran all the way from back when, that there were literal memes about how, bad Destiny's initial story was. And here we are 7 years later, and whilst there's a whole load of varied discussion about the state of the game in either PvP or PvE or all sorts of other things, you are able to sit there. And I think the one thing that most players are able to definitively say, yeah, this is good, and they come back for every week, is the story. And that is a complete pivot from where everything was previously, where people would, as you say, Matt, wait for those big expansions. Bungie has, basically drawn a line in the sand and said, this is the point at which we are going to change what it means to have a seasonal story, and we're going to change how these are structured, and we are going to make it so that over the next year, we show people that, and we really demonstrate that given the right time and the right tempo and the right care, these seasonal stories can be just as good, if not, I dare say, better than some of the expansions. You compare something like The Dark Below and its story to something like, say, Season of the Chosen or Season of the Splicer, and it's not even close. The night and day difference is enormous. And that's keeping in mind that, we had a raid back in The Dark Below as kind of the pinnacle of the story for all those moments.
Yeah. And I even think back to those times. when the Crota raid was still very ominous and not completely fleshed out story-wise. And we had so many speculations and spin-foily theories as to what was really going on in that raid. And over the years, we've seen the story just be fleshed out in such a beautiful way. And the Books of Sorrow, as things have gone on to evolve, it just goes to show how much evolution plays a part. I mean, I say it all the time, information and evolution are inextricably interwoven. And that really shows how Bungie's writing can really spread and grow, given itself that much room.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts? Season of the Splicer?
Yeah, it's been a good season overall. Like, I think what's been exciting actually for the last 3 seasons is how Bungie have like interwoven the lore with like in a lot of other places. Like, obviously with like in Season of the Chosen, we had the battlegrounds, and how we're getting like these like the private Vanguard channels with Saladin, Osiris, and Crow talking. Sometimes Amanda, Crow, and vice versa. I think that's like opened up Destiny lore to more people than just those who are like avid. I don't know what we describe them as, but people who are obviously like huge fans of the lore and spend hours reading or watching lore videos, whichever way works best for you. But I think that's been exciting to see the lore like dripped into the game itself, so it's more like it's alive than it is just like text on paper.
I agree.
Very much alive.
I saw an interesting conversation about like what happens when the season ends, or when we get, enough seasons away that we sort of might miss out, or maybe new players miss out. Are you capturing this stuff, Ishtar Collective, Baxter? Are you recording all those dialogue pieces for us?
I have to say there is a I want to give a shout out here to there's a YouTube channel, Destiny Lore Vault.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say them.
Yeah. So they've done an amazing. So there's actually some people. Yeah, you should check them out. It's a guy, Aruk. I think that's how you pronounce his name. There are a couple of other people that help him with this, and we haven't got them all on the Ishtar Collective yet, but they are capturing. Because we like to transcribe them, which takes longer than it's an extra step, but they're capturing absolutely tons of stuff, loads of content from the game. They're putting on YouTube, and that's where we are getting most of our videos for transcripts from now. So yeah, definitely check them out. They are they're doing really good stuff.
Aside from anything else, it makes me really glad that channel exists, just because of the fact that there's so much that goes missed in the seasonal activities. I mean, everybody will sit there and they'll play a few rounds of Override every week as part of the story quest. But the amazing thing is how much stuff is actually tucked in there. There are little lines here and there that really indicate some quite fascinating and ominous things if you're listening in. It hints at future story threads that are interweaving. It shows the development of characters. I think the best example is if you compare the lines in Override of Saint 14 and Mithrax at the beginning of the season, where Saint 14 is quite openly almost combative, and then you compare them at about week 3 or 4, and just as the cutscene has come along, and Saint is sort of like, oh well, I suppose you did a good job, and I guess thank you, Mithrax, and I suppose we do have a use for your splicer technology. To this week, and again, I'm not going to say too much because not too much spoilers, but I think it's fair to say that Saint's tone has changed completely. It is now a lot more accepting, and he genuinely sees Mithrax as an ally. And that character evolution, it feels so much more natural because you're not just interacting with it in those story bits. You can see it reflected in these game activities, where previously Saint was being, the Guardian's Light had everything to do with it. None of your silly data. And now he's saying, good job, Mithrax, yada, yada, yada. We'll onwards to crush everything that's going to go in our way and maybe standing against us. And it's just that tonal shift. It's felt. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you can't, if with an expansion, it's really hard. It's almost like the difference between like what you can deliver in a movie and what you can deliver in a TV series. Like when you are telling a story over a longer period, week by week, you can have these slow changes to a character's, like a slower, a more realistic character development, which I think is just really satisfying.
It's really like tuning in every week for an episode of a TV series, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's good stuff. Well, unless anybody
Should we get to some questions? We're gonna do what we
Yeah.
did every year, which is talk about law and not get to any questions.
Oh, yeah. We really did just take up half of our allotted time. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into some questions. Baxter, I'm going to go ahead and throw that one over to you. I think we've all got the questions thrown up, but yeah. What are we going to talk about first?
So there were two questions that all of us voted for. So I'll start with the first one. Since the stranger and developers have confirmed that Clarity Control is alive, do you all think that there's something more to the statues? Does the fact that they are located in the exact center of the pyramids influence your thoughts? And that was a question from Archival Mind.
Archival Mind as in Archival Mind that captures a whole bunch of music on YouTube? If so, big fan.
I'm not sure. I think I have seen the name before on Twitter and YouTube.
I feel like sometimes we need a little bit of a foundation for these kind of questions, sort of like just make sure everyone's at the same starting point. Because for me, I'm like, Clarity Control's alive, and I don't know exactly which one they're talking about. All I think about is Deepstone Crypt, Clarity Control, which is the fluid, right? And it's do we actually see it?
It's technically the effect of the it's the effect of standing near the darkness statue.
Darkness.
But to give everybody that low down explanation, Clarity Control and Clarity is commonly referring to a statue which you find in the Deepstone Crypt raid, which is one of the darkness statues. In other words, the ones that you find inside the pyramids, the veiled ones. You find it at the end of Garden of Salvation. You find it in Deepstone Crypt. You find it inside both of the pyramids on Europa and the moon that you go into. And so there is a lot of interesting stuff there.
Mixed it with Vex milk. They mix it with Vex milk for the exo mind transfer, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, filtered darkness.
Yeah. So it's like making
reverse
coffee, but with darkness.
Yeah. Add a little bit of cream and sugar.
Right. And
Not
what
recommended.
So I
do
guess
we think there's got to be more with the statues? I guess that's the thing, and that's a good question. Like, they're moving, we've seen them, they're in the pyramids. What's is that what's gonna? Are they gonna come to life? Is that Lightfall? What are we thinking?
So I'll jump in on that. Like, that's really interesting because the only statue that's actually moving is the one that's in the Deepstone Crypt. All the other Veil statues are pretty much stood still. All you hear is the obviously like the background ambient sounds and stuff.
Have you upskirted all the other ones? You can only upskirt the one that's in the Deepstone Crypt.
Rude.
I don't.
There's just a squid under there, right?
You can only upskirt the one in the Deepstone Crypt. You can't.
Did you say there's a squid under there, Rhino? What the?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a squid.
We say, oh wow,
A little bit Callahan, hasn't it?
Okay,
guys, this is the wrong podcast for this.
Yeah, this is more of an after hours topic. But I mean, hey, if it's a bunch of Cthulhu-esque monsters that are actually the center of the Clarity Control esque statues, that's even more terrifying because
we're gonna welcome a lot new people. We're gonna welcome a lot of people into the law community, mate.
Wow. The real questions here.
The real questions from Orchid, yes.
Okay.
Please don't clip this.
Oh, first question done. Can we? Okay, so what?
I don't know. I mean, I think so. Yeah, the main question is: do you think that there's something more to the statues? And I think, I mean, I hope so. I don't know if there's a definitive answer that we are able to give, but I feel as though there's a lot of why are they a veiled humanoid figure? Like, what does that have to do? Like, it seems there's a lot of things about the statues, and like, if they are they seem to be just statues, right? But they have some effect on the world around them. What is the like who? Who built them? Why do they have that effect?
Like, are they our version? Like, if you look about like you have the Traveler and the Pyramid ships, right? And you're almost like, well, they're equals, and then we find something inside the pyramid ship. So
Yeah.
are they the pyramid ship themselves? Or are they the controls of the pyramid ship? Or are they subordinate to the pyramid ship? Or are they,
So,
you know?
I wonder whether this partly links into what we learned in Presage, which is that there is a consciousness and an influence behind the darkness. And as a result, it makes you wonder, okay, so if there are the bigger mechanics of everything to be considered, and if it is a massive paracausal entity just like the Traveler, it's possible that these statues are so powerful and have that locus of the effect that Clovis calls clarity control, or just the effect of clarity, rather, as sort of an extension of the will of that consciousness behind it. You know, something that is manifesting it a lot more potently than it would otherwise. Think of the statues maybe as a locus, as in literally in circumference of it, it is powerful on anything within that circumference. It's something which basically allows for a concentration. And, you know, we can see them using these to reach out too, because it's not exactly the same statue, but the K1 artifact is kind of a similar thing to all of these statues in the sense that it reaches out and it affects people nearby, and it clearly has an effect on the environment and the recipients around it. You know, just like the one in the Black Garden is right underneath the mesa at the very center of it. And you know, it just clearly has had some influence on the Vex of the Soul prohibition, forcing them into worshipping darkness just by existing and offering them a better chance of survival by binding themselves to it. So yeah, it's maybe I think that's kind of where it's going.
Maybe the simple answer is at some point we're going to need something to shoot, and shooting giant triangles in the sky is probably going to be pretty boring. Insert enemy.
That is an interesting way of looking at it. I do think it's interesting, you know, like I don't want to delve, like, go off on too much of tangent, but I do think it's interesting that, like, you know, the Traveler.
Where's Baxter? What have you done with him?
I saw Baxter say that, man, and I just saw you go.
I do, right? I was lying. I really want to go off on a tangent. Here it is.
Every single person smiled as soon as you said, I want to go on a tangent. So just do it.
All right,
go on your tangent.
Okay, right. Here's the Traveler. When it wants to communicate with, it has to communicate with us in very indirect means. Like, we have dreams, like the speaker very roughly interprets what, like, the will of, but like when the darkness wants to talk, like, Savathun has to stop, has to be like, you know, like the darkness is like, hey guys, I've got something to tell you.
Yeah.
And why are the two, you know, like, as you said, Matt, are like, you know, they're like two sides of a different coin in a sense, but the consciousness of the light and the consciousness of the darkness seem
in on this topic as well, because I feel like that's actually a pretty good way of keeping things well rounded on it. You know, like, it comes nicely in a sort of full circle sense.
Audio's back. Keep
Hi.
Are we back? Are we good?
We are back, yes.
We are back.
Hi.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Do you know what happened? Savathun got us.
Yeah.
Oh, Savathun.
Who? I mean, Lakshmi.
I did hear some whispering.
Did anyone hear a song? Did anyone hear a song?
Okay.
Shall we go on to
continuing.
the next question, perhaps?
Yeah, let's hit it.
Yeah, let's do that. So this next question was from Gavlin. Again, everybody, all of us voted on for this one, and it's a two-part question. So one, what have we learned about the nature of darkness and light since Beyond Light? i.e. from the Stranger, Presage, and the subclass toggle text? And 2, why is everything converging on Sol, i.e. Alpha Lupi plus Lumina and the interaction with the 9, the aftermath of what we learned from Unveiling and Season of Arrivals?
Mm-hmm.
I voted for this because of peer pressure. Because you guys all voted for it. So I felt like
Oh
no!
Me too.
I didn't want to
Me
vote
too.
for it. I felt like I had to.
Wait,
And
how-
so
we
I voted
can't.
for it because you guys voted for it.
We can't have all voted for a pre. That doesn't make sense. How did? Okay, it doesn't matter.
I guess
That's.
I went back and looked at it, and then Matt voted for it because you guys all voted for it, and you guys are smarter than me.
Well,
here's the thing, right?
Disagree with
This
that
is
statement.
this is like the conversation I think of is, and it's a nice link to the Veiled because it's like, okay, we have these two cosmic forces. We've got the light and the dark. We've also got a bunch of lore about the Black Garden and how it's about balance and you know, at least one version of history is the darkness saying, well, you broke the rules first. You're the one who caused chaos, which also, you know, happened to create life itself. So, like, you know, is it even possible or plausible to defeat the darkness? And should you do it anyway? Like, I don't understand what is going to happen in Lightfall. Like, is that not the end of the game? Like, does roll credits?
I mean,
like, how?
they've confirmed it isn't the end. So there's got to be some very big story developments. But yeah.
So how, and you know, we're already embracing the darkness, right? We're already saying it, you know, we can wield it and we're doing it pretty fine. But we've still got this armada of pyramid ships that have been basically stagnant, right? Like they sort of come, but I mean, they made a whole bunch of planets disappear, but they haven't done anything else, right?
That's quite a big thing to do, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, you're right.
Giant.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that we've learned about darkness and light is realistically the fact that you can separate the power of darkness and light from the sort of primordial elemental nature of darkness and light, and even from the consciousnesses behind them that you might otherwise call the gardener and the winnower. For me, that's really the biggest takeaway that we've had that has developed even more over the last few sort of seasons. And clearly we had that development back in Shadowkeep with the Unveiling lore book, which, you know, literally describes the gardener and the winnower. But it's only made things much more clear now that we've wielded the darkness and we've had that opportunity to sit there and say, hey, you know, the corruption of the darkness is absolutely a thing. You know, the whispers and the lures of dark power totally are something you should be worried about and totally are something that you need to take care around. But the power of stasis in itself is not intrinsically bad. It just comes with a lot of sort of asterisks attached and some very real concerns that you should take. But the power in itself can very much be used for good. And, you know, we see characters in the lore like Aisha, who at one point steps in to save Vrixis, who is looking for his brother who enjoyed some ramen in the city and tragically probably didn't make it out. And
don't you say that. He's alive. I know it in my heart. Temporary's alive.
Oh my
Temporary is alive.
Lore. When I read
How good has the lore been?
Oh, when I read the last Machine Gun, one of my friends was like, no, do you understand what that big black bag was? And I'm like, no, what happened? And I'm like, no, like that's just stuff in a bag, right? He's like, no. What?
The minute I read blue ink, I was like,
oh no.
No.
He escaped, okay?
What are you doing?
That moment where Destiny's lore, yet again, just like in the Books of Sorrow, turns really dark.
It's pretty dark.
Season has been a Bungie, are you okay? Has been like what we've been doing, but it's gotten progressively like, Bungie, do we need to go to your house and check on you? Like,
just have a big banner outside saying this is an intervention.
please get some sun. Like, I am worried about you. This lore is really dark.
Well, you know, like what you're talking about with the dichotomy of the light and the dark, you know, it just shows how Ulan Tan was so woke way back when.
Damn
And
right.
we're just now starting to have its realizations in game.
But you know, there's a great, it's the last entry in Unveiling, and it's a letter from Eris.
Isn't that to? Oh, she writes a couple of letters, doesn't she?
She does. I can't remember who this one's to. Is it to the God?
I think it might actually be to us.
Yeah, but there's a thing that she says. I won't read it word for word because it's quite long. But she
Poison
says,
in the ocean.
She
right?
says, yeah, exactly. She says that she asked Morozov about balance between the light and the dark, and Morozov said, you know, when you were down in that pit and you were surrounded by darkness, did you feel balance? And she said, you know, an ocean that's half water and half poison is not balance, and that a universe in balance would always fight the darkness. So it's not necessarily that, you know, I feel as though saying that the two forces need to, like the two philosophies need to coexist, isn't necessarily the case. You know,
It's funny
I don't know.
because the like, based on what you said, it's kind of like the light and the dark. It's like the conversation, or I guess the question, is almost like an oxymoron in the sense that, like, the more we find out about each of these like paracausal entities, the less we know about them. Somehow it's like the more questions we ask, the more answers we get, the less we know. And it's like, what is the traveler? Like, what is the light? What is the darkness? We're still asking the same question, but I guess in the sense of that they're both two forms of light, and we're still like understanding what that means.
I think you nailed it perfectly. It's just like in science, when you break things down to atoms, now what's next? You know, you have subatomic particles, and what's next? You have quarks, you know, and then it just keeps going until you can't see it or perceive it, or you don't have the instruments to understand it. And so there's always going to be a threshold that you can't pass, because you're bounded by the fundamental nature of your universe. And so you can only go so far before it's indefinable or whatever.
What's that one quote from the Books of Sorrow where they're first describing the Ammonite using paracausal weapons, and the worm gods say, some lesser minds might call it magic, but suffice to say they are very powerful. You know, it's one of these things of, you can't comprehend the science behind it. You can't comprehend the mechanics of the universe that make these things possible, but they are possible and they are powerful and they should be respected.
I just like how Bife goes, what's that one quote? And then quotes it exactly.
Yeah. What is it? I'll tell you what it is right now.
He's got an Ishtar tab open on side.
He's cheating.
Always. Look, listen.
I'm making funny. I wish I had that memory. I can't remember anything. I have to look it up every time.
What do we think on the second half of that question, though? On everything converging on Soul? Because
right? The traveler is what attracted everything to the Sol system.
Well, yes, except the pyramid was there, right? I mean, this is something that's before the traveler arrived, right? Or is
Wouldn't that be a part of the traveler's light being somewhat still within the places that the traveler terraformed? And so we've got, you know, the Sol system has been very much, you know, light infused by the traveler.
Yeah, but still, that doesn't explain how maybe I'm wrong, but please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure there is something that suggests I can't remember exactly now, but there's something that suggests that the pyramid was on the moon before the Golden Age began.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken,
right. That's right.
It's like in the K1. It's in the K1 project files where they basically unearth the artifact, and they say that this thing has clearly been here for, you know, longer than we can possibly estimate, probably even before the traveler arrived.
I think K1 was referring, to a Veil statue, because didn't they drilled down like the Hive burrowed into the moon, and then obviously
it's the thing in the anomaly. At the center of the map, there's that dodecahedron that's got there's images in the Shadowkeep Collector's Edition that show it as this strange black mass, which is just an orb, and they contain it inside this sphere, and they basically they measure it, and it's something along the lines of like it has a mass that's so great that if it was ever to drop from the small distance that it was levitating, it would destroy the moon because it's so massive. Like, I don't want to say it's as dense as something like a neutron star, but yeah, it's
thick boy.
very dense. It is a thick boy. Yeah, it is a very thick boy.
But I think what Spartan's saying is they found the statue because they referred to a woman, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah, they say some figure or something, or veiled figure.
Yeah, like a humanoid figure or something like that.
I mean, there's the nightmares, which they say the commander states that she saw a nightmare veiled figure at the end of her bed, but I don't know if it's in the same one as drilling down. I could well be wrong. Like, I don't have the thing in front of me. So
I mean, I think whatever it is, and again, I can't remember exactly, and I don't know if it's worth looking it up right now, but there's something that was on the moon that predates the Golden Age. Physical object, the statue, or whether it was the anomaly, or the pyramid, and so that must have come to before the Traveler did. So why did that happen? You know,
I always assumed it was like maybe just after the collapse there would have been enough time technically, because obviously humanity was still like, I mean, they were knocked sideways and trying to figure everything out again.
But the K1 entries happened during the Golden Age, which is before the collapse. So it must have been on the moon before the collapse happened. I mean, I think, I don't know, maybe I've misunderstood. Yeah.
The artifact, but potentially both.
Yeah.
All part of the plan.
But I guess it's like, did something know that the Traveler was going to come to Sol and put this there before the Traveler arrived?
Isn't there a lore entry that suggests that the Vex had always been in Sol system before the Traveler, like really loosely somewhere?
Yes.
I think it's something along the lines of the Vex are theorized to be burrowed into the core of every world, or at very least to have structures within every world. And then, you see evidence of it with Venus and the fact that they've been there, at the very least around places like the Endless Steps and like all those different places for potentially millions of years. So before humanity even evolved.
And I think, part of the explanation for that could be the time traveling nature of the Vex, that, like, just because they arrive in a system, like, they might have, how do you have a conversation about time travelers? Like, they might have arrived initially.
Are you having a tangent again? Do we need to take the microphone off you?
No, I didn't say
do we need to take the... See, when we're in physical person, I can take the microphone off back to
I'm at an advantage.
Super quickly, because we have got about a minute left, I'm going to go ahead and do a lightning round, 10 seconds from each of you, and I'm going to ask the question which is actually fourth on the list, which is, what loose thread story-wise bothers you the most that you hope gets wrapped up? So I'm going to go around things in a counterclockwise thing. So Baxter, 10 seconds, go.
I would love to hear more about Predith and the 227 teams of simulated scientists in the Vex network.
Ooh, good one. Orchid, go.
I want Marasov's story and the Dreaming City to be wrapped up, because I'm tired of the Dreaming City to just be sitting there and not have that story wrapped up. It really bothers me.
I'm down with that one too. Completely agree. Smart, go.
Really interested to hear more about the 9. We obviously had the prophecy dungeon, but we need to know more. Where are they? What are they doing? That good stuff.
Excellent. Rhino, go.
I just want to hear more about the vague stuff that's been untouched for years, like the 5 lives of Albios.
Matt, go.
Yeah, Curse of the Dreaming City, Marasov Curse, Give now.
Yeah. And for me, Aphelion stuff, and I think that rounds it out.
Wait, what was your answer, Bife? I missed it. What did you say?
Sorry.
Aphelion stuff on the Aphelion, which we learned about in Forsaken, but not really much more. Yeah, that is all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you so much to everybody who joined me on this panel. Everybody say big thank you to everybody who's been on here for the first time as well. So that would be Rhino, Smart, and Orchid. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, the returning faces, which would be Matt, Baxter, and myself. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and we will hopefully catch you next year in person at GCX 2022.
Bye.
Bye.
Back again. We want to let y'all know that we are having a little bit of a technical issue with our next segment, but no need to worry. We do have something lined up in the meantime. So, Rukari, what do we have?
Well, again, with this being such an important cause and such an important time and such an important drive fundraiser that is happening, we figured it'd be wonderful to kind of give you guys the backstory of how this all came about and what's going on with it. So, make sure I get this right. It's going to be Ben Bowman interviewing Emily Callahan, the Chief Marketing and Experience Officer for ALSAC and St. Jude, and Miguel, a former St. Jude patient and current ALSAC employee. And they're just going to take you through a lot of the things that you need to know that you should understand about why we're all here today. Yeah. So enough of us. Let's throw it over to them, and we'll catch you guys in a bit. All right? Enjoy.
Here at GCX, and I am joined by Emily Callahan today, the ALSAC Chief Marketing and Experience Officer. That's my introduction for you. And now I'm going to ask you, who are you and what do you do at St. Jude?
Well, hey, Professor, it's great to chat with you today. We can call you Ben from now on since we're on a first name basis, and I'll drop the formal titles. You've told everybody my title. That's indeed what I get to do at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital for ALSAC, which is the fundraising and awareness organization for St. Jude. But really what I am here today is I'm here as a fangirl of the gaming community and of you and what everybody is gearing up to do, because what you all are gathering to do makes this mission possible. And so I'm here in a spirit of gratitude and thankfulness, and as the fangirl for all of you all.
Well, that is, I can tell you that we're all honored by that because we love working with you all. We've been working, GCX and St. Jude have been working together for 5 or almost 6 years now. And in all of our different iterations and format, we've raised about $15 million for St. Jude. Is there anything there that you'd like to specifically highlight across that time period, work that you've been doing in the hospital over the past 5 years that these funds have empowered?
Yeah. So can we just pause for a second and say $15 million in 5 years? I mean, can we just celebrate? I hope there's like a sound effect that somebody's going to share behind the scenes. It's extraordinary. And so, at St. Jude, we're leading the way the world understands, treats, and defeats childhood cancer and other life-threatening diseases. And I want to put that 5 years in context because you all came to support us and gathered as a community worldwide at such a critical time. At the time, we were just starting what was our largest ever strategic investment. It was a $7 billion strategic plan. And I want you to know the difference that some of that 15 million is made as part of that plan. We were able to dramatically increase the number of patients that come to St. Jude to be treated around the world. And hopefully you all know this, that at St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. Because you give, we can pay for treatment and travel and housing and food. We also announced the St. Jude Global Alliance, which I just heard this morning has over 100 partners across the world working to increase survival rates in places where, quite frankly, cancer is still a death sentence. So we can talk a little bit about that. And then every morning I come to campus and I go to my office and I see about to open and coming out of the ground, the Advanced Research Center. This is a $412 million research center that hopefully is where we're going to discover the next cures and then be able to deliver those out to the world. But we need your help now more than ever because we don't do anything small at St. Jude, just like you all don't do anything small, right? You start in a restaurant, now you're this giant event. We've just announced an 11... Yeah, we're space. We're going to space too, which we can talk about. But we just announced an $11.5 billion strategic plan. It's the largest plan in our history.
Wow.
And we can do that, quite frankly, because of the confidence we have in all of you all being part of our family and supporting us.
Well, that is a big responsibility, gamers. Everybody who's listening, they trust us. So we need to make sure that trust is not misplaced. So you brought up a couple of things that I really, really love about St. Jude. And actually, I like to tell our St. Jude story at Rare Drop is getting to know kind of very intimately all of the things that you do at St. Jude. Every year as we work together, there's new research, there's new things that are highlighted. You pointed out that no family ever receives a bill from St. Jude. And that was like the door opener for us. We were like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Like, that's the kind of thing, because the internet can be cynical. That's the kind of thing that we were like, we want something that's just so high above bar that it represents like almost an idealistic quality of commitment to a goal. And that has always been so incredibly impressive to me. But alongside that, you are sharing all of your research freely. And I get asked, I think as our story at Rare Drop has gone and GCX has gone with St. Jude, I get asked this question more often because it's something I'm passionate about, is research. And the fact that all of your research is published for free. What is the catch there? Like, how does that's what I get asked all the time. How is that even possible?
Yeah. Well, first of all, now I get why you are called the professor. So that's good. Now I get it. But let's back up for a second. Even in the no bill, you're right. There's no business model on the planet that has that. So I don't want to underestimate the power of that, because in our view, that's how healthcare should be. You take the economics out of it, right? It's available for all. There's equity in that. That's part of our DNA story, which is so timely for the conversations we're having in the world today. And then, in that same inclusive mindset, we don't have the corner on all the answers, right? It takes collaboration, working together. So from day one, just as we've opened our doors to all, we freely share our research. So, hey, look, we have intellectual property. Every organization and group does, but our philosophy is that if we hold the knowledge, then we're not fulfilling our mission, right? We're not empowering doctors and scientists to build upon that to save more children worldwide. That was Danny Thomas's vision when he started St. Jude, that no child should die in the dawn of life. So we freely share the research with the scientific world so we can advance those cures. So a great example of that is the St. Jude cloud. We talk all about this stuff in cloud computing. It's the same for us. We have so much data. So being able to upload that, for example, when we mapped the genome, so we have all these cancerous tumor samples we've collected over the years, so many enriched answers coming from that is rewriting the textbooks on how you treat childhood cancer. So we're uploading that data, sharing that freely so that, again, people can build upon those discoveries. And that's how we make progress together, which I think is perfectly reflective of your community, right? This isn't one person. This is a whole community coming together to say, we're higher minded. We have an ideal of a world that should be better. And you're using your passions and your professions to do that. So there's not a catch. We share, we talk about it, and we believe in that. And we are best by collaborations, just like this one. It's the same for researchers and doctors everywhere.
And that was what blew me away the first time I visited, and we went into the research wing with all of the flags hanging.
Yeah.
One for every country that a researcher who's working there is from, and there's so many hanging in that atrium, and it really brought to mind the reality that the mission that St. Jude has taken upon itself really is an international mission. As I mentioned earlier, the almost idealistic commitment to all of these goals includes worldwide efforts that you are now engaged with. So could you talk a little bit about what St. Jude is doing internationally? Because just like we are all working together as a community, we recognized online, the internet is international. Right. You can get anywhere from anywhere on the internet. So what kind of work is St. Jude doing for the international community?
I'm so honored to answer this question. It's a huge passion point of mine, and it's actually one of the teams I lead for ALSAC. So you're right. We can joke and say the internet knows no boundaries, but cancer doesn't either. And so, look, here in the United States, we've made tremendous progress. And this is really thanks to you all giving to St. Jude the work we've done and then sharing that out with others. So, in the United States, cancer is still the leading cause of death by disease in U.S. children. We've made great progress. So 1 in 5 children still die from their disease. But globally, particularly in low and middle income countries, it's a death sentence. 4 out of 5 children are going to die and die quickly and often painfully. And that's not acceptable to us. So we've been working globally for 2 decades. But we brought back a really amazing rock star of a doctor and a researcher who trained at St. Jude, popped off to Harvard, came back. And as I mentioned, because of the work we've been doing together in the last 5 years, we launched the St. Jude Global Alliance. So we work in partnership with hospitals and clinics and foundations all across the world to see if we can try to tackle this problem together. And in the time we've been partnering, we announced a powerful partnership with the World Health Organization. So our goal is to raise the overall survival rate for pediatric cancer, for those 6 most common forms of childhood cancer, from 20% today, so really a death sentence, to 60% by 2030. So I meant it when I said, hey, we've done a lot and 15 million is powerful. And I can assure you there's been tremendous impact, but I want you to get excited for what's ahead and know we still need your help. So we've got big, bold goals with the World Health Organization. We're exploring new partnership ideas with them to actually deliver drugs in a more equitable way and powerful way globally. So there's a ton going on around the world, but that's the beauty of St. Jude, just like you all. You bring people together that, you know, may not politically align, and they have countries that don't speak together, but gaming brings them together. It's equally passionate for this mission of St. Jude. So we convene countries together and governments and organizations and hospitals and clinics and foundations all around that same idea that no child should die in the dawn of life anywhere. So a lot more work to do. I'm excited what's ahead, and we've got some bold goals we need to do by 2030. So want to do them together?
Yes, I think I like big goals. I'm a big fan of big goals. It's always astonishing to me every time I speak to somebody from St. Jude. There's a different passion point, and it illustrates again like the intentional deep focus that St. Jude has on every aspect of life, whether we're talking about patient care, which is still astonishing to me, or we're talking about research. Every single one of those things is touched by that focus. So I'm always curious to ask this question. Okay. Right. Gaming has become a focus for not just fundraising, but it's become a treatment modality for certain types of diseases, for people who are not neurotypical like myself, who I can get a prescription video game now. Gaming is becoming a very unique and dynamic way to approach treatment. So I'm curious about 2 things. One, obviously, I'd love to know what St. Jude's near-term plans are for the gaming space and things like that. But overall, I'm really curious, does St. Jude have an approach, and how are you looking at gaming as a thing to use in the hospital as part of treatment?
Those are great questions. So let's pause for just a second and I want to underscore a point you made, Ben, about the power of gaming. And that's what we've seen the last 5 years of our partnership, right? It's the power of people coming together. You've seen people take this from a personal passion point to creating careers out of this. And then I think it's powerful. Like, we're an example, the work we've done at St. Jude, what y'all have collectively raised, of the power of this community. And then to your point, it's going far beyond. There are careers built off of gaming. We have an entire division here that thinks about this and the potential of how we maximize the community together. We're taking it into spaces as a way to connect. There's a gamification of all things, right? Companies are thinking about that all over the space and place. So I think the easiest way I know how to illustrate it is the power of what I see here. It's not only something that we can use to educate and inform and then think about ways to gamify what we do, but I don't ever want to lose the power of what it's like just to sit down and play a game. And you know this, so many of our patients, they're not defined by their disease, but the disease can be hard, it can be painful, the treatment can be difficult. And you see them light up when they just, whether it's in their patient room or in one of our 4 housing facilities, just get to sit and play games. And that's another way for them to stay connected in community when they can often be isolated here. You've seen what happens when you all come. It's like massive celebrity day, right? Their faces light up. But look, when I throw out all these big things, or we talk about cancer or the $11 billion plan, the main thing I want those of you watching here today is to remember that these are kids just like yours. The kids in your family, that this is family just like it is for you all. And so just as much as this community is meant to you, it means to us in terms of giving our patient families something to do for fun, a place of connection, powerful funds raised. It makes them not feel alone. They know your community's behind them. And then there's infinite possibilities, I think, for what we can do, not only in fundraising and marketing and science and technology, I think we've only scratched the surface on the power of gaming as a country and a world.
I would completely agree with that. Yeah, I think everybody loves games and the stories that we get to tell. I think that's the, to me, what I've seen from streaming and creating content for so long is realizing the embodying power that games can bring to people, especially when you don't feel strong yourself. Games have been something in my life that have helped me get through some of my darkest times, because it gives me a place to go where I feel like, I have control, or a place where I can go and just relax and not think about everything, because those are both things that our mind needs. And it's been so incredible to me to see how St. Jude has just embraced everything about gaming. From when we first showed up. I don't know if you know this story or not, but it feels like a good point to tell it. Our first year we fundraised for you. We didn't talk to you at all. I just pulled your PayPal link from your front page, and I put it into Stream Elements, and that's what was our donation button the first year. And it wasn't until Thursday that Zach tracked us down, and he was like, "Hey, we like working with people, right?" He's like, we would love to help you and help out. And I was just so blown away, because I had been, my entire experience as a gamer is your hobby's not important to us. And then to have somebody to have a giant organization as well respected and tenured as St. Jude, have a dedicated gaming person reach out and say, "Hey, wish you would have reached out this year. But let's talk about next year," blew my mind. It was absolutely incredible. That intention was still there, even so early on, when everyone else was still kind of looking at us sideways.
Can I tell you my story in reverse of that? Same thing. So first of all, that's the power of the mission. So my job is to help steward the St. Jude brand. It's the greatest professional joy of my life to get to do this. And so that's the power of it. If we're doing our jobs right, it's that you felt like, hey, no problem. I can go out there and I can raise money and make a difference. You felt like the brand was your own, even without an official partnership. But I vividly remember the day that same guy, Zach, came into my office as the CMO and said, "Hey, look, you need to know about the power of this community and its potential and its reach." And he built one heck of a business case and said, "This is the power, this is the reach, this is how it's bigger than sports. And here's so much more we can do with that." I said, "We're sold, build a business case." He got in front of the CEO, and I told you, right? You are our heroes here. We talk all the time as an executive team, even with our board, about what this community has done and how much more we can do together. So let's go do it together this week.
Absolutely. So we've talked for a little while. We're going to wrap it up. If there's anybody that's out there that's watching, and you could say something to them that you think like this is the thing for you that always inspires you to give each year, what would you say? Yeah, really easy question for somebody who's so deeply involved, I'm sure. Pick one of the million things.
I could tell you a million stories. I could tell you my whys. I could tell you about the pictures I keep above my desk, about patients who've gone on. But this is the thing that I think is St. Jude's about a fundamental truth that every single one of you watching today, I bet, believes just like I do, which is that kids should have a chance to grow up. Kids should have a chance to grow up. And then the second thing is I want you to know that you have power to make a difference in that. We talk big numbers, but our founder had a really beautiful saying when he started, Danny Thomas. He said, "I'd rather have $1 from 1 million people than 1 million from one." And that's how this place has been built. We took what was a death sentence for kids and we're saving their lives. And we have passion and energy and belief that we can make the boldest commitment in our history because of each of you watching today. So I don't care if you give 5 cents. I don't care if you give $1. I don't care if you don't give anything and just go tell others about it. It matters. This is the greatest, I think, reflection of humanity is what we have done together that's now embodied in St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So let's do it. Let's give all kids a chance to grow up. Your work this week and your commitment to sharing the story and giving matters. That's what I would say.
Incredible. Wow. I'm floored. What an answer. Thank you so much. I'm from me and everybody at GCX for taking some time to sit down and talk to us about the incredible commitment and mission that St. Jude has, and thank you for expressing your gratitude for all of the work that we're doing. It certainly gives me butterflies in my stomach, so I'm sure that everyone else is equivalently happy. I guess that would that'll be it. Yeah.
It was my honor. It was my honor. What y'all have built is incredible. And I'm glad we're about to follow, and you're going to hear firsthand what the work means, I think, in getting talked to a pretty remarkable person that I have the privilege of calling colleague and friend. So
this is an intense week for me. I'm really really grateful that you and everybody have just given us so much of your time this year, because I can't express how deeply impactful when somebody from St. Jude, somebody who's a very visible figure or who has a C-suite title, or anybody who comes and talks there, it really transcends all of that doubt that they have built into their head, that it can't possibly be this good. But hearing you speak about it, it's just such a great reminder, because I say it to them all the time, right? But hearing it from others is just so deeply impactful. So thank you.
I can't wait to get y'all back here so you can see. But that's the point.
Excited.
Like, this place doesn't exist without you all and what you're doing. And we just know that we are cheerleading right alongside you to watch what you have built from this tiny event to this global powerhouse, and all the creativity and ingenuity you've applied to keeping people connected. And then there are I probably are getting close to saying millions of people who've learned about the St. Jude mission because of the gaming community that wouldn't otherwise know. That's the only way we continue to exist and grow. So yes, pat yourselves on the back and know that we couldn't do it without you. And again, I started by saying I'm a fangirl, so I'll close by saying I'm a total fangirl. I'm excited.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I am Ben Bowman, the charity director here at GCX. And today I am joined by Miguel. Miguel, I am incredibly grateful to talk to you today because you've experienced the mission of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital firsthand. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how your journey at St. Jude started?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Ben. And hello to the entire community. What's up? I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, if you might picked up in my slight accent. So not being from here, you probably wonder how do you get here? Well, is because of St. Jude. I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 17 years old. There was no treatment available in my home country, the Dominican Republic. And so after flying here to the United States and looking for many places to get the treatment that I needed, none of them could provide it, or we couldn't afford it. At some point, we were being charged $500,000 before the treatment started. And so not having the money, not having insurance here. And then finally we got to St. Jude, and there it was like, oh, don't worry about bills. We're gonna take care of you. We're gonna give you the surgery that you need to cure you from the type of cancer you have, which was a bone cancer. And thanks to that, I was able to go on remission, which means cancer-free.
That is an incredible story. I talk all the time when we're educating people about St. Jude, about how their mission reaches like much farther than just their own backyard, right? They're not just treating people within a 50-mile radius of the hospital. It's folks all over the world.
Yes, and I have met people from all over the world, and like from my time being at St. Jude, and I have had friends from all over the world. And really, St. Jude is not a mission that is secluded to only the Memphis area where it is located. It's a mission that reaches all over the world. And we like to say that even though St. Jude is not in your community, our research is, because truly the research done at St. Jude saves thousands of lives around the world.
I mean, it's true. The distribution of research that you all do is something that is a huge passion point for me. The first time we went to the hospital, that was what really got me excited. They were like, everybody here leaves their research unlocked, and they publish it and all this other stuff. And I had a little bit of an academic background in my past, and I just thought, this doesn't make any sense, but it's amazing. I loved it. That's one of the things that makes St. Jude special to me. But for you, I'm curious, what is it to you that makes St. Jude special?
For me, it's the people. Well, the food, but also the people. I mean, the St. Jude is like a community I had never experienced in my life, either before or after St. Jude. Now living here in the United States, like the people there at St. Jude are so caring. The doctors there, they just and they just don't care about whether you have money or not, where you're coming from, what do you believe, what do you profess, nothing like that. The only thing that they're there for is for your well-being. And that's what makes St. Jude so special. And that is what it means so much to me, as well as what you have touched already on how the treatment is being shared worldwide. So that means that more kids don't have to travel from the Dominican Republic here to Memphis, Tennessee to get the treatment that they need, because now St. Jude is advancing in helping other hospitals to get to where St. Jude is at, so kids can be treated there locally. So that's what makes St. Jude special to me. I mean, I still have relationships with my doctors. I reach out to them, and every year on the anniversary of the surgery that saved my life, I reach out to them and say thank you. So it is, yeah, it is a community.
That's incredible. What is? I'm gonna take a second, and what is it like to be able to be sort of colleagues of these folks that perform that surgery, and to be able to see them around? What is that experience like?
Yeah, and so for folks in the community that haven't caught up yet, not only am I a former patient, but now I work for St. Jude, raising money and awareness. And so these, what Ben is saying, my colleagues now, yes, it is tremendous, because I get pleasure from looking at families that are going to treatment, and then they come back like a year later, 5 years later, and their hair is back. And I'm very happy because I was able to contribute to that. But on top of that, I'm a former patient, so I know that same feeling is going through the hearts of the people that took care of me. And the fact that I see them as I walk to the cafeteria and get to talk to them, they just look at me and say, Miguel, I'm so proud of you. I look back at them and I say, thank you. I'm so proud of you for the amazing work that you did to save my life. And it's a feeling, a connection that you cannot really explain, but I'm so grateful for that.
That is so incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and I did jump ahead a little bit. But I was enamored by that reality. You, as you mentioned, you work for ALSAC, the fundraising and awareness organization for St. Jude. And actually, I believe we met previously. Once of which you gave us a tour. Yeah. So
yeah, not only that, but I remember we also took a picture. You probably don't remember this, but it was at the zoo. And my brother was with me because he's so into Destiny. He's the only game he plays. And as that was happening, there was somebody in the karaoke machine singing Uptown Funky using his Kermit voice. I can't remember who it was, but it was a great time. So yeah, totally remember.
That is amazing. I do remember Uptown Funk with Kermit voice. That does ring a bell. But we touched on it a little bit with you being able to, be colleagues now, working alongside these doctors. And you've already touched on it every time you spoke, because you are experiencing the continued commitment, so you're experiencing the continued commitment of St. Jude to every patient. What is it like for you being part of that continuing mission for St. Jude on the fundraising side of things?
It gives a complete different meaning to what I do on a daily basis, because I know that what I'm doing actually has meaning. As being a recipient of the hope at St. Jude for the mission of St. Jude, I know that the money that I'm raising is not going to somebody's pocket to make them rich. This is straight up going to the families and to the research that is saving thousands of lives worldwide. Like, the number of kids that are going to be diagnosed with cancer every year is staggering. And so we need to do something about it. Right now we are celebrating Survivor's Day. It was actually last weekend. And now it has a deep meaning to be a survivor, and also a reminder of we have to do more for the kids that are coming after us, that we have to find a cure for them, that they also need an opportunity to live. Because I was, like anyone in the community right now, everyone in chat, I was one of them. I'm still are. but cancer just show up all of a sudden. There was no cancer in my family, just show up. And so for me, being able to be on the other side, it means so much to be able to give back and to do something so that those cures can be funded and those cures can also be given to the people that need it.
That is amazing. Yeah, the gravity of being able to go back and to give back is it's everything that you have just been telling me about your story just puts a smile on my face, because there's this reciprocation of like, you know, St. Jude's mission affecting you, and now you're having the same effect in this like beautiful causative cycle in there. It's wonderful. It's blowing my mind.
Yes, and I think you just said it so well. It's this continuous cycle of just giving thanks and giving and receiving and giving and receiving. I think that encapsulates very well what's happened, because it's not only me, but we have so many other cancer survivors that are also working for St. Jude. And we have this deep gratitude inside of us that we know that we want to go back and be part of that core team that took care of us so we can take care of others. And that's an amazing blessing, an amazing feeling.
It has got to be. To change gears very quickly, since we're going to talk about video games, I've heard around that you have been into gaming for a long time. Was that part of your treatment while you were at St. Jude? And then I have a ton of gaming follow-up questions.
Oh yeah, the first game that I ever played growing up, I think I was 5, was Super Mario for the NES. For the NES, yeah, and since then I've been hooked. And for me, it was a big part of my treatment at St. Jude. And the story that I always like to tell people is I got this game and I started playing it, and I was playing in one of the common areas and one of the housing facilities for St. Jude. And then kids will come from all around and they would just sit down next to me just to see me play. And this is back in 2011. And there was one kid who didn't speak English, but then he started learning English so that he can speak to the rest of us and participate and be part of the game. So I always think gaming as a wonderful community that get people together. Like, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what your diagnosis is, you always can get down to, hey, let's beat this boss. Let's go down to that dungeon and let's beat this game. And it's a great sense of community, so I love it.
The deep dive into that's I mean, you're right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't have to talk to shoot at the bad guys. Like, we can, like, we can go finish this raid together, even if we're incapable of speaking. That's it really does transcend language like that. So what is it right now? Like, what are you playing currently? And what is your all-time favorite game?
Yeah, so what I'm playing right now is Pokemon Go. Believe it or not, I moved to Michigan just for the summer. My now wife, because I just got married.
Congratulations.
My now wife, she's doing an internship because she's going into healthcare, and so we're here. And we moved to this place that has 2 Pokemon gyms in Pokestop right next to us. And so, like, for my living room, I'm able to battle, and so that's what I've been doing, playing some Pokemon Go. But if you know me, my all-time favorite game is the Legend of Zelda series. Like, hands down. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Legend of Zelda. I'm A Link to the Past is like probably up there on my favorites list. And then, okay. So I'm going to ask you this question. Did you ever 100% Majora's Mask?
I did not.
Good. It's so stressful. Man.
The daytime mechanic just throws me off every time.
Yeah, that was I had some friends that did that, and then I was always jealous of their achievement. It was like, how did you ever that's good old Majora's Mask.
Yeah, till this day I watch people speed run 100% Majora's Mask, and it's one of the most fun you'll have.
Oh yeah, it is an excellent speed run. So what is it that you would like to say to the folks watching at home right now, watching the GCX marathon? What would you like to say to the gaming community that's rallied behind St. Jude?
Thank you, guys, because it's because of donations and the time and the awareness that you bring in to St. Jude is that I'm here today, and that many other folks will have an opportunity, a shot in life to be whatever they want, whatever they decide to do, an opportunity to play video games after treatment. And kids, people with cancer are just like you and I. They were just having a good time at some point, and then cancer show up. And so we are doing a great thing by contributing to this mission with St. Jude, that is bringing hope to the family that need it the most. And even though St. Jude might be in one place, we are sending all the research that we're doing in finding cures and curing kids to all hospitals around the world. So it's a wonderful mission to be part of. So thank you very much.
Wow. Well, that made me very happy. So I'm sure everyone watching is feeling the same way. If you're watching right now on the charity marathon, these are the moments. These are the kind of things that you empower, that you enable. Everything that you've seen, everything that you've heard about today. So I want to say thank you from us, the gaming community, to St. Jude for, believing in us and believing that we represented part of your, the future of St. Jude and something that's valuable for you all. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank you for giving your time to come talk with us today. And if you're watching at home, make sure you click the donate button and help support the incredible mission at St. Jude.
Yes. Okay. Donate, and thank you very much.
That's better.
Welcome back to the GCX main stage. I just want to comment on Rukari's incredible hair really quickly.
Do we like it? I missed one.
Yeah. No, I think it looks absolutely delightful. But we just came out of the St. Jude keynote. In case y'all missed it yesterday, that's basically what we had seen, and it still gets me every single time. Whenever you hear Ben getting choked up, that's when like the frog and like the welling in the throat is like, ooh.
I definitely have that soft spot too. I never realized how much I had a passion for it.
Yeah.
Judging by the stories that you've heard about me, you'll understand that my childhood was a different one. I was in this Boys and Girls Club program, and they used to label it as, and I hated the label at first, but it was like disadvantaged youth. And
what?
Basically you had to, they needed the support of others to be able to make it through the struggles and stripes that they had, that they may not know that they are in. So I look at something like St. Jude as the same thing. So without the label, but more so of, folks that need our help. Absolutely need our help. So you talk about it hitting that heartstring, and it tugs on mine as well. It might be for, separate reasons, but relatable ones.
Yeah. I think regardless of who you are, or maybe where you've come from, if you hear any of these stories, or even just listening to like Emily and Miguel talk about these things, like it hits home in a place that you didn't know there was a home. Because let's be honest, I would hope that we all want to make sure kids don't have cancer ever again, or that they can beat it, because that's really important. That's what we're here for. And the event has been just doing astronomical strides for the past few years, and we've helped enlighten people on a lot of this as well, especially in this industry. And it's so good to see gaming just do so much good, which I'm super grateful for. And I'm grateful that we get to do this. This is so freaking cool, and for a good cause and good people involved. I love it so much. So thank you all again for watching that keynote. Emotions.
There we go. All right. Well, here's the deal. We're going to get ready to jump into some fun stuff in just a bit from Gearbox and whatnot. But first, we got to make sure we handle some business. Ooh. So enjoy a few ads. We'll see you in a couple of minutes, and we'll jump into our next panel. All right. See you in a sec.
Welcome back again. Hope you love those ads. We love a good ad sandwich. Delicious.
Oh, you know what? I've got nothing for that. I've got absolutely nothing for that one. I'm gonna let you enjoy your sandwich. It is about to be noon here on the West Coast. Oh,
it is actually. It is lunchtime over here, but we know our friends, it's like past lunchtime. I hope all of you have been eating and drinking right and doing some stretches, because I know this has been a long day. Actually, it's been a long 2 days so far. It's so weird, actually, thinking about it. How many steps and like exercise you actually get in an actual convention, like in person.
Lots.
And
I don't
here
even have to
we're
work
just
out
like-
for the day.
Right? And here I'm just like, oh, I'm at a convention all day, but I sure haven't stretched my legs enough.
It's a different bit for sure. Sitting in this office chair, like not being up. And I'm a very animated talker, if you guys couldn't tell with me leaning in and whatnot.
What?
So if I ever do anything on stage, I'm walking, I'm pacing back and forth. And so being
Next year's gonna be fun for that. I wonder
propped in this
if we're
chair,
just
right?
gonna walk completely opposites of the stage. You're just gonna see us walking circles and be like, do they even
Look,
communicate with each other?
You know what? I get that everybody's kind of got their own faith and beliefs and whatnot, but think of me if you ever frequented certain churches. Think of me as that old pastor that went back and forth the entire
Walking.
time with dripping beads of sweat right here, and then had his little handkerchief talking about yes, back and forth. And you're like, Pastor, if you just held still, you wouldn't be sweating like this. Goodness.
Gotta get them steps in, so that you walk faster to Jesus.
Right. All the steps.
Oh my gosh. I'm so it's been so good though, like having this virtual convention. The fact that we can have this and everything that's been going on has been so heckin' nice. And I know that we have the space station, and a lot of people have asked about the space station. Rukari, can you let them know a little something?
Yeah. If you guys are looking for more info on that, obviously we're working on things behind the scenes and whatnot. Just keep it locked to socials, right? Make sure you're following, and we'll either be able to tell you here, socials will be able to tell you. I mean, that's going to be your go-to source of information. So we keep an eye there, and as we work through things, we do this together, right? You'll know as soon as we know, and we can't wait to tell you more on it.
Yeah,
More
there's
on
only
it.
so much we can tell you right now. And honestly, the team behind the scenes is really working so heckin' hard. Just be patient with them. If you need somebody to yell at me and Rukari, because we can take it. And
That's
we'll
true. That's
probably just
exactly why we're up here. We were joking that we're a deflector shield.
throw the tomatoes at us. I might eat them. I love tomatoes. Actually, I like to salt my tomatoes. Have you ever had a salted tomato?
Absolutely. Do that all the time.
It's so good. So yeah, throw me your tomatoes. I'll catch it. Let's just play a round of catch over here. But
Also,
seriously though, what?
I'm looking off to the side because my pup walked up and he's over here on the edge staring at me, and I'm holding a treat in my hand trying to see if I can get a special guest visitor, and he's just looking at me like I don't have salted tomatoes and he's hungry. So I want to see if I can make this happen. Come here, Reggie.
Come here, Reggie.
He's not doing it. He's like, nah, you're about to lift me up and hold me up in front of everybody. He's camera shy.
He's like, I can see you're live right now. You actually talking, Dad. What are you doing?
Oh, here he comes. You can see him down here. Come here. Come on,
Got a
come
little
up.
pup action for y'all.
Oh, there we go.
Oh my
You come
goodness.
all the way up.
See, this is what
Oh,
you
that's
get
my
at a
little
virtual
boy.
convention.
That's my little boy right there. Hello. How you doing? Oh, do I get kisses? Oh, thank
He's
you.
like, I want that treat. What do you
Everybody can say hi to Reggie. This is my chubby chocolate. What's up, buddy? All right.
Dad, that's enough. What?
He's here for the food. He's here for the food.
So is Reggie going to be there next year? That's the real question.
You know, don't throw me on the spot like that. Now everybody's gonna be asking me, like, "Hey, Rukari,
Where's Reggie, huh?
traveling kind of light, aren't we?"
He's like secretly in a little handbag that's meant for like a chihuahua.
Handbag. Oh my God, he's barely a year old and already like 85 pounds. There's no
big
handbag
boy.
for him. There's no handbag
It's
for
like
him.
a whole
All right.
luggage.
All right.
But-
Well, enough of me, my dog, and my travel plans for next year. Let's get you back into the next bit. You ready? I should read this like I use my movie voice. Do you remember AOL movie phone? Does anybody else remember that? All right, let's see it. Chaos reigns in the Borderlands, and we're sure this panel will be incredible. So buckle up and enjoy the show. Good. That was it. Have fun. We'll see you in a bit.
Greetings, Vault Hunters all across the 6 galaxies and right here on the GCX space station. Welcome to the Bordercast. We're coming live to you from space this week for our 100th episode. I'm Mitsu.
And I'm Tessichka, coming to you every week to break down all things Borderlands. Hello, everyone out there in Spaceland. It's very nice to see you.
Indeed, indeed. I'm back from Deutschland, feeling extremely cultured and worldly. And what this translates to Borderlands, I guess, is probably because they visit so many worlds, so I'm doing countries. And I am so refreshed as a result and ready to go on right here with all of you and Tess to talk about all things Borderlands and St. Jude, too.
And Wonderlands later?
Oh, and Wonderlands, but we'll get to that.
As always, we want to take a minute to thank our new listeners on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, those watching live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Steam, later on the VOD on YouTube, anybody watching via the cool space entrance to the show.
Main stage space entrance of Destiny. That's where we're at right now.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out. You're absolutely amazing, and we appreciate you so much. We super, super, super appreciate anybody and everybody supporting St. Jude's. It is an incredible, awesome cause that deserves all the support in the world. St. Jude's helps kids in this country, in the U.S., and also all over the world, and it's incredible. So super, super, super grateful for you guys supporting them. Yeah. I know Mitsu's done a ton of charity stuff for them. I've done a ton of charity stuff for them, right?
I mean, that's why I've got this really cool shirt right here, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I've got one in purple and one in green, and I think the one in green perhaps might not be the one to wear while we're doing the show.
Yeah, you of the green screen, that would be a little bit rough. Just a smidge.
Yes, it would. We would love for everybody out there who's enjoying the program across all the areas to give us that big old like, follow, or favorite, as that's what we're here to do on GCX today, which is promote St. Jude. Promote St. Jude first, then Borderlands second.
And also Wonderlands, which I'm really excited about. Just saying.
Oh, see, Monday's in the chat right now saying the mug is green screen too. For those of you who don't know, this is my wondrous cosmic mug. You'll see floating eyes going across the screen like that. That is on purpose. I actually do know what I'm doing, despite the fact that it doesn't look like I do.
The mug actually just lives in space. It's like coming to us from the beyond, the void.
Yes. Yeah. And then it just comes at you sometimes. It's like a second pair of eyes. It's wonderful. Oh boy, Wonderlands. Okay, so usually here on the Bordercast, what we do is we start everything with a breakdown of all things Borderlands news. But the only thing everybody wants to talk about right now, at least at first, is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the full new game that was announced last week by Gearbox and 2K. And for those of you who don't know, Tess, what is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands?
So Wonderlands is a brand new full game, hopefully a start of a new franchise. It is a looter shooter, but it's a fantasy world, and it's based on the Tiny Tina DLC for Borderlands 2 that was so beloved by the community. The devs heard everyone clamoring for more of that and how much everybody enjoyed that. I know I did. I know Mitsu did. And they decided that just doing another DLC or anything like that would not be enough to do it justice, that there was so much potential there for fun things, fun new things to do, that they would make a whole new game out of it. And it's a fantasy-focused world, or Wonderland, so worlds maybe? I don't know. And you do get to make your own character in it, which is really, really, really cool. And there'll be some spells that you can use and different kinds of weapons, of course, and all of the looter shooter goodness that you are used to from Borderlands will be there as well. So lots and lots and lots of cool things. And if you guys would like to check out a trailer, should I do the thing? Should I do the thing?
I would say it's about time to do the thing.
All right, then. Here you go.
Fate. It soars on the wind. It rises from the grave. It stalks the ocean floor. You cannot hide from fate. But you can make your own.
God, every single time I see that trailer, it just gives me chills. It's so good. It's so good. And I am so excited for it. You guys have no idea. So excited. Tiny Tina, of course, so much fun. And there's so many potential shenanigans in this world because it's basically controlled entirely by her. She's the DM or GM of the super cool kind of D&D-ish Bunkers and Badasses-ish adventure that we're going to be having in Wonderlands. And so the rules are entirely up to her. And the devs have said, Matt Cox, who did a really cool interview a week ago, I feel like it was a week ago, time, said that basically they can do a lot of really interesting things because of that, because it's all coming from her awesome, crazy brain. And I'm so excited to see what she and the devs come up with.
Yeah,
His outfit has changed also.
Oh, right. I think everybody probably over at the space station who noticed I didn't have a scarf is probably going crazy because now I do in fact have a scarf on. Surprise. I just had to squeeze at least one in there this year because I'm not on and off camera like I have been in previous years when I've been hosting GCX. So what I would do is I would change scarves whenever the camera was off me or whenever I felt like it. So I think in one day I went through like 35 scarves. And I'm still upset that you got to know when to change them. I think we did one where there was, we were doing an interview for another game and every time they would cut to an advertisement real quick, because we would have to throw it off when our ear, I would just reach under the table and then just pull out one of my scarves from my bag and just change it every single time. I think in that interview, I changed like 5-6 times.
Where did you keep them all? Like 35 scarves is a lot to carry.
I had a I think it was a really, really big bag from a previous GCX. And I just shoved them in there. And then I brought the bag to the interview and I just changed there. And then the rest of it would just stay in the back. So I would just walk in the back and somebody would see me literally walking out with a different one on. And I'm still upset that in Borderlands, they have yet to actually make a weapon manufacturer scarf. And it's like, it makes me very sad because I would love to have a Torg scarf, a Tediore scarf, a Maliwan, especially a Maliwan scarf, honestly. A Hyperion scarf would look really, really, so a Torg scarf. A Torg scarf would look really, really, really good because you have that checker pattern at the fringes, and then in the middle you have the Torg logo, and the Torg logo is like perfectly proportioned to be on the
I would
scarf.
want a Tediore one, but I'd be concerned that my head might actually explode from wearing it.
It's I get. Well, you have to just don't throw it. You have to lay it down gently every time. If you just like casually toss it aside, it's gonna explode in your hand.
Yeah, that would be a worry with the Torg one too. Okay, good point.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, if you wear the Hyperion one, you're really good at conference calls. What? That joke was good. Like 3 people are going to appreciate that joke in chat, but I love you 3 people who get that. This is very obscure. Kind of obscure.
Well, I hope you guys are at least as excited about Wonderlands as we are. I literally can't contain my my hype. But we've got some confirmed actors in the game. Andy Samberg, Wanda Sykes, Will Arnett, and Ashley Birch will be playing characters, I'm assuming NPCs, that we get to interact with in the game. I'm sure Ashley Birch is going to be Tiny Tina, of course. And one thing that's super, super cool that Ashley Birch actually revealed when the game was first announced on the Summer Games Fest last week, which it feels like it's already been longer than a week. I don't know why. But anyway, she mentioned that you would get to create your own Vault Hunter, so your own character. Unlike, all of the Borderlands games where we have these amazing cool characters kind of built for us to play, and then we just get to deck them out with cool skills and cool gear. Here, we'll get to create the character like true RPG form, true D&D, Bunkers and Badasses form, which, by the way, if you haven't heard, tiny segue, but Bunkers and Badasses is a real thing. There's an actual tabletop RPG called Bunkers and Badasses that is being released by
Nerdvana Games, actually. Yes, so Randy Pitchford owns Gearbox, right?
Yeah.
Christy Pitchford, his wife, owns Nerdvana Games.
Oh.
So they've been working hand in hand on this project for years and years and years. It was my understanding actually that Chrissy really, really looked forward to making this happen because she's been really big into tabletop games now too.
That's so awesome.
And this has actually been a very popular question that's come up because some people asked about it. Anthony Birch wrote it.
Wow. Oh, that's right. That's right. I think I remember hearing about this. Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. And I'm so excited because I actually play in several tabletop RPG shows on Twitch. I'm on one on Mondays over at the Wandering Inn doing a Vampire the Masquerade tabletop every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then actually later today I'll be over on Table Story doing Rime of the Frost Maiden, which is a traditional D&D campaign. And I love doing them so much. It's just like an incredible new creative format that I think has come about on Twitch over recent years. And I'm so excited to see it. And I'm so excited for there to be Bunkers and Badasses shows done by all of the amazing creative DMs and players out there. So psyched to see what other people do with it. So psyched to hopefully play and maybe DM. I don't know if I'm that brave, but maybe. But just excited for that to exist. A real Borderlands, Tiny Tina-esque D&D type tabletop RPG. How incredibly awesome is that? And of course, Wonderlands. When they announced Bunkers and Badasses, I was literally jumping up and down. And then now we have Wonderlands, which is the video game version. We get to make our characters. We're going to have crazy abilities and spells in theory. And that's going to be so fun. Fantasy and Borderlands, the Wonderlands. So psyched.
So I know you mentioned these actors, right? Andy Samberg, he's funny as hell. So I'm wondering what kind of roles these people will actually portray. Wanda Sykes is in it, which she has been doing comedy forever, so she'll fit right in. Will Arnett and his wonderfully masterful gravelly voice is going to make an excellent, like, dry, sarcastic dungeon master, which will be really, really good in contrast to all of Tina's narration. So I'm really excited to see how they kind of like play off of each other. And I know I didn't put this in confirmed actors, but it was in the trailer. It's just worth pointing out again that Butt Stallion's in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Butt Stallion is in the game.
Yeah. Oh my God. I wonder what like magical abilities Butt Stallion will have. Like crazy thing. Anything is possible, right? I mean, it's literally all from the mind of Tina, who is wonderful and totally insane. Anything is possible, and it's going to be a blast. I'm so excited.
And it's right away too. Like it sounds like it's just going to be this whole new environment with a whole new set of ways to play Borderlands that we've just never experienced before. And I'm kind of excited. I wish we had more information than literally that, but it's all such pure speculation right now. It's like, what will they do with the Talon trees? Will there even be Talon trees? What will characters look like? How will you create them? Because one of the things that they kind of mentioned is that this is more fully controlled by you, the player. Yeah. You're going to be able to create your own character. So how does that work in relation to what Vault Hunters were like? Because you understood what they were, right? You played the operative, you played the this, the that. So it's like, what else is out there? How do you build your character? Is it you have to choose when you start? Like, I don't know. So it's interesting.
I don't know. I have this assumption in my head that it'll be D&D like, but that gives you so much variety to play with, and I don't know if I'm right about that or wrong about that. It's speculation at this point, so who knows? But the possibilities are literally endless, and I just wanted to be here. Like, can somebody just, I don't know, put me under until it's out in early 2022. Early next year is we don't have an exact date, but early next year is when it comes out. I just wanted to be here now, please. I know good things take time, but I'm so excited. In the meantime, we do have a lot of really cool Borderlands stuff still coming, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Oh, yeah. I mean, why not get into it right now, all things considered? Because there is something out there that some of the folks in the GCX community might not know about that I definitely wanted to share with everybody. There's a game out there. You might have heard of it. It's called Tales from the Borderlands. It is one of the best games in the Borderlands franchise, solely on the back of the story that it tells and how it conveys it, which is why I'm so sad that Telltale Games went under. Because maybe we would have had it too, but Doesn't seem like that's happening for any time soon, but we don't know. Boy, I would like to cross my fingers on that one. Anyway, Tales from the Borderlands was so good that Gearbox and 2K decided to bring it to the Switch. So it is now on the Switch. If you love that story-based adventure that you can go on in the Borderlands universe, this is a good place to go and get it. Tess here is far more this way, far more well-versed in, it's this way for me, it's probably the other way from you, well-versed in Tales from the Borderlands. So I'll let her sell you on that one real quick, because you should play it if you are a fan of Borderlands.
You should definitely play it. It's funny because it doesn't play like a traditional Borderlands game. Obviously, there is gunplay, but it's not like the same. It's not a first-person experience. It's more of a QTE. I can't speak English today. QTE-based game, in where you like choose dialogue interactions and you choose like QuickTime events and things like that to make happen. And it's much more story-based. If you've never played a Telltale game, this is actually a really good one to start with, especially if you're a Borderlands fan, because the world is very familiar and the art style is exactly right. And there are some, new characters and some familiar things. And of course, it all takes place on Pandora, and it's beautiful, and it's a brand new adventure. And the story is so good. It's just so well done. I mean, Telltale is known for storytelling for a reason, but this one really is just, I think, one of their shining stars, because it's such a good time. You really fall in love with the characters. I don't want to tell you guys too much because you should go play it, but the humor also is absolutely there, like the traditional Borderlands humor. So good. It's so good. There's all kinds of fun characters that some of them actually make it into Borderlands 3. I wish there were more of them. I hope someday there may be more in the future, please. But yeah, they're awesome. And it's just super worth playing through. And you can get it now, again, on Steam. You can buy it on PlayStation. You can buy it on Xbox, I believe. You could buy it on all the platforms. And of course, Nintendo Switch. So if you're traveling, if you're lucky enough to be vaccinated and have a cool place to go, like Mitsu did recently, you can take your Switch with you and play through Tales, or you could just play on the couch and be comfy. That works too.
You never know. Maybe your friends could all vote on what you're going to choose as your next selection for progressing the story.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I might think about that one. Borderlands 3 is now available as part of PlayStation Now until September 29th. If you have a PlayStation 4 or 5 and a PS Now subscription, or I guess both, really doesn't matter, there's really no reason not to pick it up. It's very good. For those of you who are lucky enough to have a PlayStation 5, I am not. My wife is, but I am not. But I have heard from many, many folks that the haptic feedback is absolutely incredible.
So this just happened like an hour before Bordercast, and I completely forgot in the midst of everything. But yeah.
What?
Yeah. So.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's not a bit, by the way.
Yeah.
I really did not know
I forgot. It flew out of my head. I was going to tell you, but I forgot. And actually, it wasn't even me. It was my much better, wiser, quicker, more awesome half. Rob actually managed to snag one. And because we've been like, I was at first, when they were coming out, I was one of those people that's like, I'll just wait patiently until there's lots available. It'll be fine. I have an amazing computer from AMD. I don't, need to worry about it. I let the people that really, really want it right away get it right away. And then some time passed, and some more time passed, and it became obvious that it was going to remain impossible to get it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to be patient. But I really, really, really want to play. There's a couple of games that are exclusive to it that I really want to play, and like Demon Souls. And yeah, so like in the last few weeks or so, month or so, I've been like, okay, we're going to try. I've got to figure out a way. And so Rob's been like following the people on Twitter, and today, while I was out running in the woods, he managed to snag one. And I came home from like the most incredible, beautiful run that I haven't really been able to do over COVID, but now I can because I'm vaccinated. And I came home on the highest high from that run, and he's like, guess what? And I was like, what? And I was so excited. So PlayStation people, come hang out with me, play Borderlands. Great. I'm definitely going to have Borderlands on the PlayStation 2, although I don't know if I'll play, I'll probably play, because crossplay for all platforms except PlayStation for now. But hopefully eventually, we'll see. We'll see.
Just a matter of working out the deal, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Cool news.
36 people out there left in the entire world. I was going to say 37, but then Liz was going to point out the fact that I say that all the time. 36 people who are left in the world who do not know about this. You're about to right now. There is a Borderlands movie coming out. We don't know when, but I do know some of my stuff through our wonderful associate producer here on the show, Mental Mars. He has been providing me with all of the knowledge possible as I've been away, which has been infinitely helpful because I literally just came back yesterday, so writing the show was kind of a rush job. But he was instrumental in getting me some cool news. Benjamin Byron Davis, or as we know him in our little corner of the universe, Marcus, that's my awful Marcus impression, is wrapping up his filming. So whatever he needed to get done over the course of however long they've been shooting is done now. He gets to go home from I believe they're filming in Hungary, I think. So I have no idea how things have been like there. I hope better. I would hope they're taking like all the COVID precautions ever, but
I'm sure
hopefully, yeah. Like I honestly don't know, but you know what? Regardless, he gets to go home, so I'm sure he's very happy. And then Florian Montanou, who's playing Krieg, he is apparently wrapping up filming sometime this week, and so is Ariana Greenblatt, who plays Tiny Tina in this game, or in this movie, I should say, because it's, oh my god, just some of the stuff that has like come out about what the cast has been like, because they've taken a lot of like out of costume shots and things like that. It feels like they're like this family now. Like everything that we've read about and seen through all the pictures that they've taken has been just so uplifting and amazing to see, because it's very clear that whatever they've been through, they're like this close-knit unit now. Although I will say this much, and this is a frustrating effect, we still don't know what anybody looks like or what anything looks like.
Yeah,
at all.
they released the silhouettes of what they look like, but I mean, they just look like characters in the video game because it's literally just the silhouette. Those are really cool images to be able to see, but not the same thing as seeing the actual costumes. And I know that Mental Mars, and if you want to check these out, I recommend you go to mentalmars.com. He put together some really incredible sort of visuals of how we all would imagine they'll look like. Really, really incredible stuff. Just go to his website, you'll find them. But we don't really know what the actual costumes look like. We don't know what the sets look like. We don't know what any of it is like. But it does look like the cast is having a blast shooting, filming, and I mean, I'm sure that Byron Davis will be happy to go home, but at the same time, probably a little bit sad because probably having a really good time out there. So yeah, Ariana Greenblatt. I'm sorry, my brain.
I've done it before too.
Yeah, Ariana Greenblatt has been amazing and been posting all kinds of fun things on Twitter, and she's such a ball of fun and awesome that I think she's so perfect for Tina, and I'm excited to see her actually bring her to life on film. That's going to be amazing.
It seems like she gets it. When Wonderlands actually was announced, she was like on Twitter and snuck in and said like I forget exactly what she said, but it was like perfect Tina tweet. It was so good. So these are the little things that make me feel like so reinforced about the fact that they're going to get this movie. Like even looking at those silhouettes, I really hope that we're not getting like pulled a fast one and that those actually are them in costume, because it looks like the game.
Yeah,
like the silhouettes look like how everybody would look in the game. Everybody does.
Yeah,
like it's clear like Roland's wearing a beret, like Lilith has got the stance right, like all these little technical details that you wouldn't normally notice you can in the silhouette, and it's like, oh boy, what's that?
Tannis looks like Tannis, but she also kind of looks like Jamie Lee Curtis a little bit, even though it's just a silhouette. I don't know. I think it's how I imagine her, so maybe it's easier for me to associate. I don't know, but I just want to see more. I want them to release like stills from the movie. I hope they do that at some point. I'm sure these things are not ready yet, but I hope if like in the lead up, nothing too revealing, because I want to be surprised by like the actual plot and all that stuff. But I would love to see some stills from the movie with people in costume, like maybe closer to release date, because that would be so cool.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. but it's it's a big movie studio. They sometimes have very slow plotting marketing strategies, so it's going to be frustratingly slow for a while. And it's really odd because it wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis, or I'm sorry, it wasn't like Lionsgate that tweeted them out first, right? It was like Jamie Lee Curtis tweeted them out.
Yeah, well, the Borderlands film Twitter didn't go live right away. It went like, 'cause
Yes.
I think they were still keeping things kind of like under the vest a little bit. And then so Jamie Lee Curtis started tweeting, and then Ariana Greenblatt started tweeting. I don't know why I said the other name. I'm so sorry. My brain sometimes it just has a mind of its own. But yeah, so they all started tweeting and posting on their Instagrams and things like that. And then the Borderlands film Twitter, which if you want to go follow it, it's just at Borderlands Film. You can hear about news and get these cool images and things like that to pop up on your Twitter for yourself. But yeah, that went live, I want to say like a month ago. Was it a month ago? I don't know.
Wibbledy wobbledy timey wimey.
Yeah, something like that. But they've been posting some fun stuff, so I'm sure they'll probably post more as it gets closer and closer to the day. But honestly, go follow Ariana Greenblatt because she's hilarious and awesome, and she posts fun things related to Borderlands. So
yeah.
She's just awesome. Just go follow her.
Here's my one fun question before we move on. I wonder if they're going to do like the cell shaded inked style, or if they're going to go for a little bit more of a realistic Borderlands style, because you could go either way.
Yeah.
You could do, I mean, that's how many hours of makeup is that probably in the chair? You probably do what, 5 hours for each person every day if you do that kind of style. That's intense.
I don't know. I mean, the cosplayers and how complicated their stuff is, I don't know, because it's really hard to say, because I don't know if they can like do that in like post-production to a degree.
I guess they would have to, right? Like,
I don't
because
know.
you have to do that with everything.
I don't know. I mean, I've done a cosplay of Maya because she's my favorite character ever in the world. And for me, I sort of had the clothes, and then I just did like a little bit of face makeup just to kind of have the art style, kind of the spirit of the art style on my face. And it's definitely nothing even close to what truly experienced pro cosplayers do. I'm just a baby cosplayer. It was my first and only real cosplay, so I'm sure I'll do more eventually. I'm just learning still. But anyway, what they do is so incredible. I mean, they draw on the clothes themselves. They can cell shade the clothes, basically. Cell shade. They can hand ink the clothes to make it look like they fit into the universe. And I'm sure that the costume department can do that with the clothes and stuff like that for the Borderlands movie. The stuff that, the hand inked style for people's faces and makeup, I mean, they could do anything. It's movie magic, right? They could do it with makeup, or they could do it with CGI later. I don't know. I have no idea. But
I'm trying to think how that would work. I don't know. I've never been on a film set. I don't understand movie making magic. Like, I'm not a programmer. I'm not a game designer. I don't know anything about this. So I will not speculate, because I would be like, originally, for those of you who don't know, we were going to have 55, Liz, my co-host in crime from GCX's past, here on the program today too. But unfortunately, she was unable to make it as she's working on her move between her previous home and back to LA. I'm a little sad about that, but it is what it is. She's a more experienced like actress. She's actually done movies before.
Yeah.
So I wish she was here. That would actually be a great question for her.
Well, we'll definitely do another. I mean, we do Bordercast every week, actually, on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern over on twitch.tv/Borderlands. And we'll absolutely do an episode including her in the near future when she's free, hopefully settled in a little bit more and free. So you will see her again on the Bordercast, hopefully, because I miss her.
Very soon.
Yeah. So that'll be cool.
You talked about this earlier. Crossplay is coming.
Yes, crossplay. A lot of people have asked about this, like every single day since the Borderlands 3 was announced. And it is something that Gearbox has said will happen. Randy has said will happen, and it is actually now happening. Now, Randy has said that right now it's just going to be all the platforms except for PlayStation, Sony right now. Hopefully in the future, it's still a possibility that it'll work out and we, PlayStation can be included as well. I definitely hope that that works out in the future because we want to do crossplay with everybody. I want to play with everybody. I know we all do. So hopefully in the future, PlayStation gets included, but for now, it's just all the other platforms. So Stadia, Epic, Steam, Xbox, all the things, which is really cool.
I was about to say, I just want to point out that it sounds like you're taking a big part away when you just think of one or two, right? But realistically, that crossplay goes between Xbox, EC, Steam, Epic, and Stadia. Yeah, I said Stadia. Like, that's actually 5 platforms, and Sony's the only odd man out in that one. So you never know. You might have somebody. You might actually play with somebody on Stadia because, like, maybe they don't have the best computer, but they're going to do the streaming service thing. Like, you can do that now if you want to. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know Mitsu and I have both actually played on Stadia, and it's quite good. I was really impressed. I wasn't I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it is. Especially because we both have dedicated computers to play, right? And we're so used to the quality of that, and I was definitely expecting it to not be as good of an experience, but it actually was just as good and really, really, really solid. As long as your internet connection is half decent, I think it can play really well, which is really awesome. So yeah.
Let's see. Maurice's vending machine has moved once more. So GCX is founded out of another game, which many of us know very, very well and also love dearly too. For those of you who maybe played Borderlands 3 and are unfamiliar with this new concept, but you know of this other game, there's something in that game, a certain person who goes around and hides on different planets every week in a different location, and you can show up and buy things off of him. Maurice's vending machine is pretty much the very similar premise of that. Somewhere, Marcus has hidden a super cool vending machine that sells legendary weapons. Now you can show up to him every week, or rather the machine, and buy those legendary weapons off of him. So there is an opportunity for you there to maybe start farming, or not maybe necessarily farming, but if you're lucky, you go there and get exactly the gun that you like. And if it has an anointment you don't like, for those of you who did not play for a while, say you played on release and you just put it down for a while, now there's an Iridium re-roller for your anointments. So you can actually pay Iridium in the game to re-roll your anointments on any gun that has one. So if you buy something and it's not what you're looking for, now you can spend Iridium to make it what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's a really good Iridium sync. Maybe a little too good because I've spent all of my Iridium doing that on multiple characters on multiple platforms. But it's a good thing because sometimes that one specific anointment that you really want is hard to get, So it just sort of depends. Are you time rich or are you Iridium rich? Or what are you in the mood to farm? The thing itself or Iridium? Because there are definitely good places to farm one versus the other. So really, really cool.
And it's funny that you mention Iridium. You could be time rich and Iridium rich if you decide to partake in Revenge of the Cartels, which is not any longer, I should say, a soon TM, but a soon. We got a date for when Revenge of the Cartels returns, June 24th. For those of you who have not played Revenge of the Cartels, it is probably the single best event I have ever played in any video game ever. And no, I am not actually exaggerating or bloviating when I say that. I will explain why very quickly. If you like the 80s, if you like 80s theme music, if you love neon, if you love Scarface references, this is the event for you because it is all of that and more. And it only comes around once a year. It is not something that occurs all the time. So if you are curious as to what it is free for every player of Borderlands 3, and it will be starting June 24th. I cannot wait.
Yeah, that's only 6 days away. Oh my God. That's really, really, really cool to hear. And actually, so this is the second year of the event, right? The second year.
Yeah, it's been going as long as the game has, and this is, I believe, its second year now. So yeah,
my brain and time completely are not working. But yeah,
2020 didn't happen. So yeah.
Second year. Anyway, the event is now called the Revengeance of the Revenge of the Cartels. So What does that mean? We don't actually know, but we suspect and speculate that maybe the devs did something to it. We'll see. I don't know what that means. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but I feel like altering the name a little bit means that there's some kind of changes in there. And it's a really, really cool event also because so when you go in, actually, at least the way it was originally, the enemies change. You get different types of enemies every time, and sometimes different bosses, or like in a different
different mini bosses.
rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can get a bunch of really, really, really amazing guns. Hello, OPQ, and Yellow Cake, and the Pew Pew, and a few other really good things. And it's just a good, fun event. It almost feels like a takedown without being a takedown.
That's what it's generally compared to most of the time. If Joey Ultraviolet was a little bit harder, he would probably be Joey Ultraviolet the Invincible. And there are so many cool mechanics and things to dodge and like fire at and during this boss fight. Like, it's a really, really well designed boss fight. It's probably my second favorite in the game now.
Yeah.
Has been for a long time.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it to come back. 6 days. 6 days next Thursday.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. If you are looking to stock up on Iridium, he's got piles of it, if you will.
Yeah.
Some of them are mashed up piles, but I think you can shoot some of them and actual bars of Iridium will pop out. So this is, a lot of you who might not have played, there's also a new DLC called the Director's Cut that came out. And for those of you who played and loved 2 and haven't picked up 3 in some time, in the Director's Cut, there is Hemovorus the Invincible, which on higher Mayhem levels spawns with Terramorphous the Invincible. And much like in Borderlands 2, you have to spend Iridium to summon both bosses. So now a lot of player complaint was that Iridium was useless. Now you can use it to reroll your anointment on your weapons and your shields and your grenades, right? Now you can use it to summon Terramorphous and Hemovorus. Now you can use it in the Iridium Fabricator. You can, spend instead of 5 Iridium, like 250 Iridium, and it just shoots out legendaries.
Yeah. So it costs more Iridium to get a better weapon, basically, or a potentially better weapon. Which is really, really cool.
But it exists, and they're great dumps. It's what it needs, you know?
Yeah. And that Hemovorus fight is insane. I super recommend checking it out if you haven't. There's also a ton of behind the scenes content in the Director's Cut, which if you've ever been curious about the behind the scenes of making a video game, if you've ever wanted to see some of the things that don't necessarily make it to the final version of the game, but that in the hearts and minds of the devs are like canon story-wise. If you want to kind of see some of the early mock-ups and storyboards and things like that, all of that is actually in there. There's so much, and it's really, 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 really good. So definitely recommend checking that out too. It's on the main menu if you bought it, just in case you're curious. It's on the main menu for all of the sort of bonus things, special things. Definitely worth your time.
All the cool things.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot going on when it comes to Borderlands 3 that I think a lot of people might still not be aware of, and hopefully those of you out there in the satellite right now and watching throughout the GCX community are like, maybe I need to give this Borderlands game another try because this is stuff that I need to know about. Which, speaking of, Randy put out a tweet. It's a very cryptic one, but it stated that there would be support for Borderlands 3 that would continue for some time, but he didn't necessarily elaborate on what that support looks like. So now everybody's in like high speculation mode again that maybe there's a new event coming up. Maybe Revengeance of the Revenge of the Cartels is going to become standard for events. Maybe they're working on a new DLC. Nobody knows, but like it's very clear everybody's excited and wants to find out. So
stay tuned.
yeah, big time. That feels like a stay tuned kind of tweet, but I think that was a big concern that a lot of the community has had. It's like, what is, now that Wonderlands has come out, which we're all excited for, what about Borderlands 3? Because it's still kind of early in its life cycle. Is there going to be any more support for it? So that's kind of where that question came from. And now here we are, and we're kind of finding out, it's going to continue in the forms that it does.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff revengeance and etc. and etc. And hopefully we learn more over the next few weeks and we can share it with you. But yeah, very, very cool to see what's next for Borderlands as well.
Yes. So there's a whole lot going on with that. Speaking of things going on with Borderlands, True Trials. I guess we should back up and explain that real quick for those of you who might not know yet, who are not initiated. There's been a mini event going on for the past couple weeks called the True Trials event. So in Borderlands 3, there are these areas called the Trials. There's the Trial of Supremacy, the Trial of Fervor, the Trial of... There's 6 of them, right? And in these trials, you do certain things. You have about 18 minutes, 20 minutes to clear them, depending on how long they tend to be. And there's always a boss at the end. Now, what they're doing with True Trials is they're ramping up the difficulty of the last boss and some of the mobs, I believe, as you're going through it. They're removing the time restraint on it completely. But if you beat it, you're guaranteed to get legendary items in the chest at the end, which was a complaint of some players. Why did we go through doing all of these objectives if we weren't going to get good loot at the end? Well, now you are guaranteed in the Trial of Supremacy this week to get 2 different guns in the chest at the end. One of them is one of my personal favorite guns. And Tess, I think you've used this one before, the Monarch.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really good gun. It was like kind of one of the more reliable guns for challenging bosses. Like the really, really big bosses and I mean, a lot of Borderlands bosses are just these massive beings, but sometimes they're big and they're far away from you, and you really, really, really want to be putting out like massive damage that goes the distance. And so the Monarch is definitely a good game for that. The True Trial of Supremacy, by the way, takes place in Desolation's Edge on Necro Tefeo, which is one of the most beautiful locations, in my opinion, in Borderlands 3. I love all of the Borderlands in Borderlands 3. I love them a lot. Visually, the game is unbelievable. I'm an eye candy video game junkie, and it feeds my soul, and it's great. Necro Tefeo is definitely one of the most beautiful locations. So, of course, I'm excited that this last trial is there. And then the other gun that you can get is actually from one of the DLCs from the director's cut. It's called the Atlas Replay, which I actually don't think I've used.
I've used it. It's not the most impressive gun. I'm not going to say it's the worst gun in the world. There are probably some that are better, but a few characters can get actual use out of it. So it's worth farming. But again, I will say this much. If you're going to be doing the Trial of Supremacy here, the hot gun that you're going to be looking for is the Monarch, because for those of you who maybe played on release, the Monarch was not in the game, and you might know of the gun, the Dictator. And this is like the Dictator turned up to 11.
Yeah.
Get it? The Monarch, the Dictator. It's pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was a good name.
It is pretty good, and it's a good gun, really. Like, it's worth going to get it for sure.
Yeah. We have in the Borderlands community wonderful community members. One of them is known as Triple G, and Triple G came up with an idea for something called Endgame Rush, where the idea was to beat some of the endgame objectives as fast as you possibly could. Maliwan takedown, Guardian takedown, this boss, that boss, a few other things done. Now that we have Hemovorus and Vermivorus in the game again, and some other endgame activities, including probably the Seer, which we won't spoil who that is, now there's more endgame activities, which means it's time for Season 2. But Triple G is bringing back that event and more rules to follow when he releases it. But he wanted everybody to be aware. We want everybody to be aware too. So I figured I'd squeeze that one in. Oh boy. What else? We talked about bunkers and badasses. Tiny Tina has merch. This is crazy. So before Tiny Tina's Wonderlands comes out, they have released an entire merch selection and paired with Funko Pop, among other things, to produce some really cool looking Tiny Tina stuff, which seems to be a work in progress that is to come. But I am excited based on some of the stills that we've seen of what it looks like. And that's going to be really big when we finally get to dive into that store. Because it's funny, they're putting out a store already, which means there has already been people screaming for licensed stuff. That was done really quick.
Please.
Sorry. Yes. Right, here's one right here. That's my apologies. I forgot.
I love the Borderlands art style. I love everything Borderlands, obviously. I have a little Maya figurine sitting right there. She's super cute, and it's the Maya Ducky. But I want Wonderlands merch. I mean, the art for Wonderlands, if you guys haven't seen it yet, it was in that trailer we played earlier. You can also just go to Play Wonderlands on Twitter and check out some of the screenshots and things they've put out already. The art is incredible, and any merch based on this is going to be amazing, and I want it, and I need it in my life. It's going to be so good.
That is the true. So, finally having gotten through all the news, we're not just here to talk about Borderlands today. One of the things that Tess and I insisted on being able to talk about when we were doing this show is a little bit about our work with St. Jude and why you out there should definitely support the children of St. Jude. On a personal note, I've hosted GCX for many years. I go all the way back to the first Destiny Community Con when we were in a box and I basically moderated the main panel, which at that time was King Gathalion, T-Rex, Professor Broman, Laced Up Lauren, and Real Crafty. And of those, I only knew King Gathalion and Professor Broman, and in a lesser extent, T-Rex. Like, we hadn't really interacted and stuff like that. So I got to meet a whole bunch of new people in the community who have gone on to be amazing pals, especially Gathalion, who I miss. I wish he was on the show because this is our 100th episode and he was on the first one.
Oh, yeah,
so
great.
It would have been a nice full circle thing, but the man is probably extremely busy right now with all of his responsibilities. So that being said, I've been to St. Jude a few times. I have had the genuine honor of being able to walk around the hospital, of playing video games with the kids, of getting to see where the families get to stay. The apartments that they put them up with are completely for free, and that's where your money goes. They stay there, they get a grocery stipend. It's a very comfortable place. It's a place of healing. It really does help to have your family there supporting you while you're going through this entire process.
Yep.
So
they do
if that doesn't sell you
everything-
on it, like,
they do everything humanly possible to make sure that families with children with terminal or life-threatening or cancer or any of these illnesses can focus on getting their child well and taking the best possible care of their child, and they don't have any other concerns. That's all they want to do is their mission statement is to eliminate childhood cancers. And in the time since St. Jude's has existed, they've gotten it down so much. I think the survivability of childhood cancer, 20 years ago was so much lower, and now I think it's something like 89%, which I remember
98%.
98%.
I think it was a specific type of lymphoma, and I feel really bad because that's originally what St. Jude started for. It was originally a very specific form of it was either lymphoma or leukemia. It might have been leukemia now that I'm thinking about it. And the average survival rate might have been like 10%. It was very extremely low.
God.
And now it's like 97, 98%. It's the turnaround is insane. And that's where all of your money goes to when you are donating to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So please do.
Yep. You can do so at gcxevent.com/donate. One of the wonderful mods just put it in chat. So please, any amount helps, by the way. $1 helps, $5 helps. Anything beyond that is absolutely incredible. And we're super grateful to you guys for supporting this amazing cause. We're lucky that we get to play video games and talk about video games and help support this cause. Thank you for doing that with us. It really means a lot.
And dude, my producers are telling me that we are up against a very hard wall. So unfortunately, as much as I love talking with all of you today, and I'm sure Tess did too, we're going to have to cut this one off short. Real quick before we go out, Season Pass 2 is out now. The Director's Cut is here. Tess, where can the people find you real quick?
Over on the Borderlands channel, I stream, of course, Borderlands 3, and on my own channel at twitch.tv/Tessichka. It's just Tessa, CHKA, and Twitter and Instagram at TessGames. What about you, Mitsu?
Twitch.tv/Mitsu, Twitter.com/Mitsu Show, where you can see me tweet about how much E3 was a roller coaster this year. It was a very emotional one. And then I will also be right here Or actually, I think it'll, well, I think it's right here on the official Rare Drop channel tomorrow night as part of the Rare Drop After Dark D&D campaign, where I'll be taking part of a 2-shot, because I believe, or it might even be a 3-shot. I think they did it last night. I know they're doing it tonight, and they are doing it tomorrow night as well. And yes, I will be involved in Captain Robert's shenanigans. I think along with this year's host, Sam, who we're going to throw to in a few seconds. So hopefully you're standing by, Sam. But before that happens, Tess, what do the people need to know?
You guys, we're live with the Bordercast every Thursday, usually at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, over on twitch.tv/Borderlands. And we super appreciate you guys joining us here for this show, supporting St. Jude's. We super appreciate you guys following us on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, YouTube Music, Stitcher, Twitch, Steam, Facebook, all the places. Thank you so much for hanging out and supporting St. Jude's. We appreciate it.
Yes, we do. So on behalf of Tess, myself, everybody at the Borderlands content crew team, thank you so much for joining us as you do every single week. And a huge shout out to everybody at GCX. Now go forth on that satellite and make some mayhem.
Sam, I thought you were going to catch this one and you just left it on me. Either way, wonderful stuff. Ooh. With the Bordercast. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Get out of here. I need
I'm just joking.
For tomorrow.
Wow. Do you see that? I just got the axe. yeah. Where's the little hook to pull me off? Just like it's the Apollo. Goodness gracious. She called that in and it's absolutely going to happen now.
No. Wait, no. Suddenly I'm alone tomorrow. So hi, it's just me today.
Right. Well, she's alluding to tomorrow because, well, that's going to do it for our little bit here today. And I say our little bit because, of course, the marathon is still going on. Of course, we've got more stuff for you tomorrow. And of course, there's just a ton more, but it was a good day. Yeah.
It was a really good day. I thoroughly enjoyed all those panels. I know I mentioned that before, but it was really good. And honestly, I'm stoked for D&D tonight. And Mitsu, I'm excited to have you on D&D tomorrow because I don't know what chaos we're going to get into this evening in the tavern or on twitch.tv/Captain Robert. Is where the D&D for GCX is happening. And then, of course, as Rukari said, we still have the marathon going on, which is on twitch.tv/GCX event. But we will be back here tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern.
The time zones are always tough. That's right.
They are. I'm just like, I know it's 9 a.m. PST, so I'm assuming that it's 12 Eastern. But yeah, so we'll be back here together tomorrow for our last day of GCX. And as a quick reminder, make sure that y'all are paying attention to these socials for the space station and updates and stuff like that. And please just be kind to our team. They are working diligently to try to do everything to make this experience as wonderful as possible. Once again, throw tomatoes at us. We're here to catch them.
You know what? I threw my hands up in the air right there because I was going to make sure to give that plug. But clearly, I got the hook. You did the plug. Tomorrow we'll just see. I'm just going to hide like this. But thank you again, everybody. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you. We'll see you next time.